Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday Trucker Talk. Let me get the banner up there, and then we'll jump right into today's show. Right now we don't have a lot of people viewing. I don't know if the notifications didn't go out or what happened, but we're just going to roll along, and hopefully everybody will catch up. I know most of y'all watch on the replay anyway. Hey, Trucking with Fly Rabbit is here. Good deal, man. Glad you're here. Um, we've got a lot to discuss. I know everybody wants to talk about the Kenworth I just bought, and there has been some developments on that. We'll get on that later in the show. But more importantly, tonight it's the first Tuesday of the month, and we're going to have Trucker CFO on. I hope you've got your questions lined up. I've just got a couple for him tonight, and then he's got some pretty big announcements we're going to talk about tonight as well. Let's say hi to a few more people real quick. Good friend Dennis is here. Good friend Gary is here. And SRJ is here. Glad to have y'all all here. Tim he's the only one of us that's working. He's out driving tonight, but we're glad he's here listening in the background. Um, so um, let's go ahead and bring Trucker CFO in. I hate to leave him waiting in the wings. He's a busy guy, and so we'll say hello to Christina real quick, and then we'll bring in Trucker CFO. And I'm going to try something tonight. Hey, it worked. Looky there. All righty. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good. How are you? It's a lot's gone on since I was on last. Glad you're doing
Oh
okay.
man, yeah, it's been crazy. Did you have a good Memorial weekend?
Yeah, I relaxed a bit. Got out, saw some relatives, went to their graves and whatnot. Did the Memorial Day thing. I've got a brother that served in the Marine Corps who's passed. Went and visited him, and yeah, just did the typical Memorial Day stuff.
Well, that's good. That's good. Let me say hi to one more guy. My good friend Red Raider Reloading is here, a fellow Lubbock truck driver. So we got a lot of big announcements from you this week. The first one being the expedited conference that you're going to be at July 21st and 22nd. Do you have much information you can share about that yet? I know you're going to have on several YouTubers, and I don't know if you can announce who they are yet or not, or I may be jumping the gun a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to be making an announcement on that. We are going to have several of our clients who also happen to be quote unquote influencers in the trucking space, and they're going to be visiting with us. You're going to be one of them. I can say that. You've confirmed that, so I feel comfortable doing that part. And we're going to have you and others on Sirius XM Road Dog Radio with me. I'll be broadcasting live from the show. By the way, it's in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's the Crossroads of America Truck Show and the Expedite Expo. And so SiriusXM will be there with me, and we're going to be doing a 2-hour show on Friday there. And we also on Saturday morning are going to be doing a workshop where we are going to be rolling out a new ebook that we have put together or are working on putting together. It's substantially complete. I know I've shared with you the table of contents. We can talk about that a bit today if you'd like, but right now it's sitting at about 54 pages. It's going to have a lot of really good information. The difference here, the listeners out there that some of them may be familiar with our Trucker CFO Guide to Tax Season, where we dove into the details of taxes and how and what you should be doing to minimize your tax liability. This guide is going to be more centered around the transportation industry, operationally speaking, and the different business decisions that you should be thinking about and how they're going to impact your bottom line. So we do tie it back to what ultimately Trucker CFO and our team should be doing, which is helping your bottom line. But we'll be looking at a number of things, such as things that we've talked about on this show, rates, what affects rates, how the economy impacts rates. We'll dive into factoring and maintenance and fuel costs and all kinds of other stuff within this guide. And again, bringing it back to how it impacts your bottom line.
And you're saying you're going to unveil that at that expedited show? Is that when that's coming out?
We will have a soft rollout of it probably a week or 2 weeks prior, where folks can get a hold of that through our website. But for the most part, kind of the marketing aspect of it will be announced and made available to the general public as part of my participation in the Expedite Expo.
Yeah, that's why even guys that maybe aren't in the expedited field might find benefit of attending this show, because there's going to be an opportunity to learn about a lot of different things in the trucking industry that might benefit you later down the load or down the road. Good Lord, my tongue is tied. But I know I'm excited about this guide for small business trucking companies that you're coming out with, just because the first one well, I don't know if it was your first one. The first one I was exposed to, Guide to Tax Season, I got a lot of benefit from, and I still go to your website and reread it from time to time. I was on your website today looking at it, and if any of you guys haven't checked that out, you really need to go to truckercfo.com. It's a free PDF right there on the right side of the home screen. You can download it and read it, and there's a lot of great information there, and I'm excited to see what this new one will have in it as well. And before we jump into it, though, I had one question that was really good, and I should have printed it out and read it verbatim. But basically, he wanted to know, when you start your LLC, how the taxes get paid. I guess part of it would be like your normal payroll taxes, and then part of it would be the LLC paying taxes as well, and he was kind of wanting an understanding of how that works.
Okay, so when you start an LLC, um, there's a couple different things that have to be factored in. One, is it a single member LLC or is it a multi-member LLC? Um, for most of the folks out there, the listeners out there, it's going to be a single member LLC, and they will be coming from an operation that is set up as a sole proprietorship. So perhaps they've been running as an independent contractor and just using their social security number for that operation, right? And they get a 1099 off of that social security number that they've given to the motor carrier. Once you set up an LLC, you receive an EIN from the IRS for the LLC itself. The important thing to note is that when that happens, your taxes do not change. So, as a single member LLC, you are taxed the exact same way as a sole proprietor. And what happens there is your income from your operation, whether single member LLC or sole proprietorship, passes through to you as a individual, and you pay taxes at the individual level. Now, as far as maybe the question perhaps is more, how does the money actually get to the IRS? If that's the question, then you have to pay taxes. The way the IRS gets the money is through your estimated tax payments. So 4 times per year, you need to pay an estimate, and there's a few different ways you can come up with that estimate. But you send that money off to the IRS, and that money gets banked and applied towards what ultimately ends up being your annual tax liability. So, for example, if you make estimated tax payments throughout the year of, say, $2,000 per quarter, you've paid $8,000 for the year, and then we do your annual tax return, and your tax liability comes to, say, $9,000. Well, we're going to apply that $8,000 of estimated tax payments towards the $9,000 that you owe, and you're going to owe an additional $1,000. Then again, you might have a liability that's only $7,000, and then the reverse would be true. You paid eight, you owe seven, you're going to get $1,000 back. So that's how it works. Important to remember that the LLC in and of itself does not change the way you are taxed, and you pay taxes through estimated taxes. There is no payroll. If you are a sole proprietorship or a single member LLC, or a partnership, you are not supposed to have payroll. You're not supposed to be going through ADP or Paychecks or any of these other payroll processing firms to pay yourself. That That is not the way it's supposed to happen. So I see, um, that should answer the question for them.
Yeah, yeah, I think it did. As now that'll change if a person upgrades to an S corp, though, right?
If they upgrade to an S Corp, that does change the way they are taxed, and they do still pay estimated taxes, but they are then required, as opposed to you're not supposed to take payroll as an S or as an LLC, sole member or multi-member. As an S corporation, you are required to have payroll. So you got to understand that and know what it is you are in terms of a business operation. We see a lot of folks, especially recently, that come to us and they have payroll set up and they're a single member LLC or a partnership. That is against the IRS rules, and you can get yourself in trouble for it. They can penalize you for it. Seems weird that they would, but they can. On the flip side, if you're an S corporation and you're not taking payroll, same thing applies. They can penalize you for that. They can actually revoke your S corp status. So you've got to know and understand the type of entity you are and what that means. And if you don't, by all means, whether you do or don't, you should be using Trucker CFO. Come to us. We're going to set you straight and make sure it's handled properly, regardless of what your situation is.
Yeah, it seems like that's probably the number one question we get. And it's more the reason they need to get with you guys because it is confusing. It's a minefield, and just one mistake could cost you a lot of time and money with the IRS. It's better to have somebody that studies it full time and can kind of walk you through it and keep you from making a mistake. We do got another question here. If I get an inheritance, taxes already paid, and it doesn't go right into my business account, and I want to use it for a down payment for a truck, can I just inject that as capital to the business account?
Um, yes, it depends. I guess is the. I hate saying it depends. I sound like a politician, but it does depend. If we go back to a single member LLC, you're the sole owner. There's no issues around equity accounts and different things that can come up. Then yes, you can inject that money into the business and use it for a down payment. If you are in a partnership, there are considerations that need to be taken into account, such as your equity accounts and what that then does to the ownership or profit share of the other partner, and whether they do or don't need to inject an equitable amount of capital into the business as well. There's also considerations if you are operating as an INC, or an incorporation, a C corp. Those are some of the things that need to keep in mind. But for most of you out there, you're going to be single member LLC, and it's not going to be that big of a deal to just inject it into the company and get that down payment.
All right. He says, or would there be another tax on that then?
Um, so again, taking C corp out of the picture, there's not going to be another tax on it if you are putting it in as a contribution to your business. With C corps, it can get really complex. It's not going to be taxed when you put it into the business, but there are all kinds of issues that come about when pulling the money out of the business and doing different things. So um, yeah, for the most part, no, he's not going to have to worry about another tax.
He put some more clarification here, but I just want to remind everybody in complicated situations like this, I do have his number rolling across the ticker at the bottom. Give his office a call tomorrow, and they can either help you out, answer your questions, or get you signed up if you're interested in having a good service like this. Let's see here. He says that he is a single member LLC and there's a solid separation between him and his LLC.
He should be fine then, just getting that contributing it into the business bank account and then using it as a down payment.
Cool. Yeah, good deal. No problem, Poplars. Yeah, we try to get you some good information here, but if it gets too far in the weeds, you may just need to call and let them look at your specific situations. The tax code's crazy, and they can better do it in a one-on-one type situation. Let's see here. Yeah, yeah. That's you never know what we're going to ask though. Good question though. A good friend is Kirk is here. Kirk, do you still live in Lubbock also? I don't know if Kirk lives in Lubbock. Seemed like he used to, or maybe he was just passing through the first time he contacted me. But anyway, while we're waiting for some more questions to populate, let's jump into this table of contents and see. Ah, he's in Huntsville. There you go. Let's jump into this table of contents and see what we come up with. Um, Chapter one, of course, is the introduction. Probably won't have a lot of questions there, but chapter two is a good one. Choosing a business entity, deciding should you be a sole proprietor, an S corp, LLC, what you should do. What are your thoughts on that, Colton?
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a carryover from our guide to tax season. We do have a section in there on business entity, but in thinking about putting this guide together, choosing a business entity really is one of if not the first, one of the first, five or so questions that they should be asking about setting up their business entity. And so we go into things like the differences between sole proprietorships, partnerships, LLCs, the advantages and disadvantages of all of them. We get into questions such as contributing capital and what considerations there are in terms of that. We do get into the timeline of that and the forward thinking nature of choosing a business entity. So I say oftentimes when I'm on my own podcast, when I'm on the radio, when I come on with you and others, I talk about the nature of being proactive in your business, and that applies to everything, not just taxes, not just accounting, but being proactive in your decisions and your decision making. And choosing a business entity is one of those that can really set you up to be more forward thinking in your operation. Without it, as a tax preparer, our hands are tied a little bit as to what we can do in terms of planning for future tax implications. And so we end up being more reactive if you don't have a business entity. And so a lot of times people will say to me or think that there's really no benefit. I don't have any assets to protect, so what does it matter? Well, it can matter a great deal when it comes to us deciding how to best situate you for tax purposes. So it's a very good kind of revisit of the subject and should give people some good information on making that decision early on in their business. If they haven't made it already and they've been operating for a long time, they should still think about getting that done.
Okay, somebody just said they were having trouble hearing me, but on my end it shows my audio is good. Is anybody else having trouble hearing me? We'll go ahead and go on to the next one while we're waiting. They said my volume's too low, but it's showing that I'm maxed out on my end. Three and four kind of go together in my mind, operating under another motor carrier's authority versus getting your own motor carrier authority. And a lot of people have been asking me lately if I'm going to get my own authority. And it's not something I've had a desire for until recently. And now I'm kind of interested in it. So I'm curious what you'll say about it.
Yeah, well, what I say about all of these things is I don't take the approach in this ebook of telling people what direction or what decision they should make. What might be good for one person won't be good for the next, and so we present the information in a way that says, "Hey, here are the pros and cons. What are the pros of running under another motor carrier's authority?" Well, the obvious ones are there's a lot less administrative work that you have to worry about. They've got the freight for you, at least they should, and they can. It's a little bit difficult right now. I get it, but they have that captive freight. They've got an entire sales force out there, securing the shippers and doing everything they can to keep you running. Whereas if you have your own authority, that falls to you. And we've got other chapters in here that talks about how you can secure freight if you're operating on your own authority. But when you're under somebody else's authority, the pros are there's less for you to worry about in terms of that structure, and that's one of the pros is they've got that structure in place for you from safety to the freight that you're going to be hauling, an established network, and hopefully a good reputation that you can kind of leverage to your benefit. There's also lower startup costs associated with driving under somebody else's authority. They usually have plans in place that you can come in, insurance plans, all kinds of different things that you're going to be able to leverage to keep your costs down. To give you an example, when we look at the books for folks that are driving under somebody else's authority versus somebody who has their own authority and is going out and getting insurance on their own, and they're going to some of the the national type insurance firms where you're not going to really get much of a discount. We see insurance bills coming across for a single truck and maybe trailer of $15,000 to $25,000 annually. Whereas if you're driving for a motor carrier, we'll see those regularly in the $3,000 to maybe $8,000 range. And so there's a big difference in those costs. The upside to having your own authority being that you've got greater upside in terms of rates. There's not a middleman between you and the person that's presenting that freight to you. And no, there's other considerations which we also go into in terms of factoring when you have your own authority, and the cost of factoring. So yeah, a lot of detail to go into on all of these topics.
Good deal. We got another question off the comments. His father passed away. His sister and him split a huge sum of money from his house being sold. Will they have to report that on their taxes?
Maybe, maybe not. Sounding like a politician again. There are exclusions and amounts that can be excluded in terms of needing to pay taxes on an inheritance or not. And so you'll need to give us a call and we can talk through that. There's a number of considerations that we've got to look at. So that's one where I would say give us a call and let us talk to you. Maybe, maybe not.
Good deal. All right, let's jump back into the table of contents here. Again, he's got a guide for small business trucking companies that'll be coming out in mid-July. It'll have a soft rollout, and then it'll be fully revealed at the Expedited Truck Show, July 21st and 22nd. I'll be there. He'll be there. With a lot of other surprise guests. So you'll want to stay tuned so that you can get the latest information about where they'll be, where I'll be, all that good stuff. Another one, something I've wrestled with the past 3 weeks, and I'll be curious to get a copy of this and take a look at it. Selecting the right trucking equipment.
Yeah, it's important as folks come into this and starting a new operation, or maybe they've been driving company and they've just been hauling dry vans. Maybe it's drop and hook and they're switching between dry vans and reefers. I don't know. There's all kinds of operations out there, but we have clients who go from that type of operation, then all of a sudden they're going into the oil fields. And maybe they've been on a lease purchase and they graduate out of that lease purchase and they think, well, I can go get really good rates in the oil fields, and they're taking this truck that's been spec'd by the motor carrier to haul dry van OTR. All of a sudden that truck is on these dirt roads out in the oil fields. It doesn't tend to work out too well for them. And I'm not saying anything that you truckers don't know, but a lot of you actually don't know that, surprisingly enough. And so we dive into that a little bit and understanding the type of equipment that you need and making sure it is spec'd for the right type of freight that you're looking to haul. And other examples are folks that are hauling, heavy haul, flatbed, heavy haul equipment type applications. Same type of thing, making sure there are significant impacts to your bottom line when it comes to having the right type of equipments, and from maintenance to your fuel to all kinds of things. So don't just think because you got a truck, it's going to be turnkey and you can throw that into any operation. You gotta understand that and know what it is you're looking to do and make sure you get the right specs.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, the most important thing is how many chicken lights are on the truck, and you don't recommend any truck with less than 50 pounds of chrome.
There you go. No chrome whatsoever. I don't recommend that. I don't know if we just lost Todd or if we lost everybody. Kathleen, hit me with an IM if I'm still live. All right. So I'm hearing that Todd is frozen and that I am live. We can all see his bright smiling face.
Okay,
Oh, you're
there it is.
back. You're
We're
back.
back. We're back. And I made a sarcastic joke right when it froze up. Oh boy. Let's see here. So the next one we've got is, and this is going to fall in with a question we just got handed. Well, we're not quite there yet. Let's look at maintenance options for your trucking fleet.
So with the maintenance options, we go into the different types of companies that are providing maintenance, right? So if you're driving under motor carriers authority, a lot of them are going to provide a maintenance option for you, and it's going to be usually a pretty reasonable option for you to use. We also look at and compare options in terms of like using the truck stops. So, most of you have probably had a PM at the Loves, for example, driving down the road. What are the pros and cons of using Loves versus going to a local mechanic that you know and trust? Um, all of those things factor into decisions that people should use. And it also probably factors in or plays a part in the type of freight you're hauling. What is it that you're doing? And how does the maintenance option that you choose play into where you're at and what it is that you're trying to accomplish? We've got a lot of clients that do their own maintenance and save a lot of money by doing that. But I always ask the question, should you be doing that? Are you competent? Just because you drive a truck doesn't mean you should be working on a truck. So we talk about all of that. Just because you went to school at H&R Block one year when you were 21 to prepare taxes doesn't mean you should be doing your own taxes either, right? So just because somebody at the fuel pump next to you said, "Hey, I'm an S corp," you should look into it, doesn't mean that you should be an S corp. So the same types of things apply to maintenance. Oftentimes, when the dollar gets tight, the things that we see dropped first and second are taxes and maintenance. And so we talk about the importance of staying up to date on your maintenance and what options are out there for you and what the pros and cons of each are when it comes to maintenance.
So we've got another question that's going to go right in with chapter number 7, which is source and freight, load boards, brokerage, and direct contracts. This guy, Red Diesel, was asking, and his comment disappeared on my side when my signal went away. He's asking if you see freight rates going up. I saw some reports that said they're slightly starting to go up, and that the reject rate, I can't remember what you called it, was up to like 3.35%. What's your thoughts on freight rates and on source and freight?
Well, I will tell you, it was good to see, keeping the politics aside, it was good to see a potential deal reached on the debt ceiling. If the debt ceiling had been had not been passed, it still hasn't been passed, but if that had if we had not gotten some type of agreement on that, the difficulties that you guys are all seeing out there right now would have been probably tenfold what it is now. It would have been a significant impact to the economy. And again, keeping the politics of whether you think our government should be going into that much debt or not aside, it has a significant impact on the current economy. And assuming that it does pass, it makes its way through both the House and the Senate, and assuming that there's no other geopolitical interruptions to the economy. For example, assuming China doesn't invade Taiwan, that kind of a thing, or Russia doesn't decide to throw a bomb over into NATO. I don't know. Assuming nothing like that happens, I see rates, in my opinion, starting to trickle back up in Q4. If not in Q4, then possibly as we get into spring of 2024. That's my take. I think we've still got some hurt to go through out there right now. I think it's less likely that we see rates trickle up in Q3 than to say Q2 of next year. So I think more likely to be further out than sooner, if that makes sense.
Okay. Here's one for you. This question's kind of uncomfortable because he's kind of using somebody else's tax service. He noticed this year that his tax service changed the line that they reported fuel cost on. Does that matter? Which line should it be on?
Well, it depends on what type of entity you are. There's all kinds of different tax returns. So if it's Schedule C, it's going to be on a different line than if you're an S corporation. But there are specific sections of a tax return, regardless of which kind of tax return it is. There are specific locations that it should be. We do see, using Schedule C as an example, we do see folks oftentimes throwing fuel down into a miscellaneous section. And that's because as tractors, they'll take the approach that your tractor does not qualify as a vehicle, and so they'll take it out of the vehicle section of the tax return and throw it down into miscellaneous. At the end of the day, it does not change your tax liability, whether it's in the right place or the wrong place. As long as it's there, you're getting the deduction for it. What happens is if you have these different types of expenses in the wrong place, it can potentially increase your audit risk, because the computer programs at the IRS, they are looking for reasonableness when it comes to different types of expenses. And that's the importance of your industry code. I don't know if many of you know this, but there is a specific industry code for trucking and transportation, and we put that onto the tax return, and that tells the IRS computers, hey, look for, well, it tells them a lot of things, but one of the things it tells them is look for these types of expenses to be within these ranges, and fuel would obviously be one of them. And so if your fuel, it ends up on, say, an insurance line item, for example, and you've got $100,000 of fuel, um, that's going to throw your insurance equation kind of out of whack, and so it can increase your audit risk. But so there's some things to consider there. Without looking at his specific tax return, it's hard to say whether it's in an area that is going to potentially cause him issues, or if perhaps it was in the wrong place before and they moved it now to the correct place. There's really no way to know just based on the question. But those are some of the things that he should think about.
Okay. Red Diesel says, unfortunately, OTR drivers at some point going to have to use unfamiliar on the road shops. Yeah, that's true, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think he's going back to maintenance and the fact that, yeah, you're not going to know. So there, you're kind of relying on the brand, right? You're relying on the fact that the Love Shop is going to have people in there that know what they're doing, and they're seeing these trucks every single day. But you're missing out on perhaps somebody who gets familiar with your specific truck. And those, again, those are all the pros and cons that we go into when evaluating which maintenance option to choose.
All righty. Gary's company uses Penske Maintenance to maintain the trucks. They charge a mileage charge that is a deduction. That mileage charge is for maintenance. Okay, there you go. Let's see here. I
Go back
say,
to, sorry, go back to that real quick. I think so. What he's asking is so Penske has a maintenance amount that they're deducting from the settlement, is what he's saying. And he's
okay.
asking, is that a deduction? I'm assuming, is that a deduction for tax purposes? So the for those of you that have settlements or receiving settlements from a motor carrier, the question of deductibility comes down to how does the motor carrier view that money that they are withholding from the settlement. So if it goes into an escrow account, so let's say they're taking 7 cents per mile and they're throwing it into an escrow, a maintenance escrow, and you build that up, and let's say you got $5,000 in there, and you decide to leave the motor carrier. If they keep the money. If that $5,000 now belongs to Penske because you left, then it is a deduction for you as they pull it from your settlement each week. However, if that money is yours and you get to take that $5,000 with you, then it is not a deduction. It's considered a balance sheet line item, and you deduct it for tax purposes as you use it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that was a question. I'm glad you caught that. Let's see. Red Devil says, I say drive the debt ceiling off the cliff and get over it already. No way we will ever be able to pay off the national debt. Well, I've been living that way the last 2 months. I've been doing my debt ceiling through the roof too. So I can't throw any sticks at the government right now for sure. No fear
Yes.
says.
Yeah. So in terms of the political side of things, my take is, look, our federal government absolutely needs to get the debt under control. They need to do something. They need to come together, the two sides, and figure something out. Now, is that going to happen? It's unlikely. They've come to a bit of an agreement now, but they've just kind of kicked the can down the road a bit with what I've seen. And at the end of the day, I do not believe in the school of thought that says it does not matter what the federal deficit is or what the federal debt is, because right now the interest payments associated with the debt are so high that our GDP is not keeping up, and more of our tax dollars are going to pay that debt. And a lot of it is associated with countries, specifically China, that do not like us and do not have our best interests at heart. And all it takes is them calling some of those debts or us defaulting on that debt. And we're in for not just a little bit of hurt, but for a lot of hurt. And so that's why I'm happy that it looks like they're going to get something passed, but there needs to be further work to get our finances in order.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Steve said, yeah, Schedule C, thanks. Let's see. How much does a this is a question I asked you a few weeks ago. How much does a business credit card actually help business credit? It feels like it'd be minuscule compared to, say, getting my own fuel card.
All right. So business credit, I think, is overrated. When you start it's not like personal credit, right? There's not I can't go out and say I've got a 720 or an 820 or a 420 personal credit score. The main company that deals in business credits, honestly, the folks that are looking at that don't really care too much what your credit looks like. Um, so, for example, going back to the question of buying a truck, if you go to an OEM and you want to buy a new truck, let's say it's we'll just say it's a Cascadia, 180,000 new. You go to them and you're like, hey, look at my business credit. It's amazing. I've never missed a payment on anything. They're not going to care. What they're going to look at is what is your ability to pay back that $180,000 through your business, and how much of a down payment do you have? So most of them are going to require, say, 20% down. And if you've never bought a truck like that before, you're going to have a pretty significant interest rate. And you're also going to sign a personal guarantee associated with that business loan. And so what they've done is, one, they're making a lot of money off of you with the increased interest rate. And two, if you default on that loan, they're going to come after your personal assets. Even if you have an LLC that separates your personal assets, you're going to be required to sign a document that pierces that veil and allows them access to your personal assets to help pay off that note. So what I tell people is do your best to kind of take the punch. Honestly, when you're first starting out, you're going to have higher cost of money, and that's where some of the benefits of having a motor carrier using their authority come in, because you can get lower cost associated with starting up your business. But if you're going out and you want to buy the equipment on your own and get your authority on your own, you got to have that money down 20%. You've got to take the time to pay off that equipment. And once you've been in business for a couple years and you've got sufficient cash reserves in place, you can then go to a bank and say, okay, here are my financial statements. Here's my income statement and my balance sheet. And they're going to use that, they being the bank, they're going to use that to evaluate how financially sound your business is. And with that evaluation, they're going to say, okay, we're going to perhaps lower your interest rate. We're going to put together certain covenants, bank covenants, that are based off of your financials. And as long as your financial metrics stay above certain levels, we are going to be okay continuing to lend you money, or we're going to be okay continuing to hold a line of credit for you. And perhaps at a certain point, you might get to where they say, hey, we no longer need a personal guarantee on some of these assets. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just saying, hey, I've got a good business credit score. And again, honestly, it just does not make much of a difference when it's all said and done.
All righty. Here's a speculative question for you. He wants to know if company drivers, if you see them ever getting some kind of per diem in the future.
Depends. Have I said that a lot today? I think I have. Um, it depends. Possibly. If we go back to what happened when the per diem was yanked out from underneath the company drivers, you had the Trump tax cuts that for company drivers, especially married company drivers, didn't feel too much like a tax cut because they essentially they got hit by what ended up being a reduction in their itemized deductions that was not fully offset by the increase in the standard deduction. That's where per diem was taken for company drivers. So if you had a married couple and let's say their per diem was coming in at $40,000 to $45,000 for an OTR couple out on the road, 320 days a year perhaps, that per diem deduction of $40,000 to $45,000 plus perhaps other things like mortgage interest. You've got donations, maybe it's tithing for church. We see that a lot. All these things added up were greater than the increase to the standard deduction, and so they lost out on $10,000 to $15,000 of reduction to their taxable income, and as a result, their tax liability went up. So the way they would get it back is if there are future changes to the tax law that say, hey, we're going to reduce the standard deduction. We're going to go back to more itemized deductions, and we're going to allow these unreimbursed employee expenses, which is where the per diem fell. That's the most likely outcome if we were to see it come back. A less likely outcome would be if the trucking industry was able to lobby to get some type of exclusion written into the tax code that allowed a unreimbursed employee expense for per diem for company drivers. Because it's not just company drivers, there's also per diem type implications for other industries that we see. Firefighters, we see it for sometimes for police officers. There's other applications there as well. So I would say short of it is it's not very likely, but possible.
Okay. Now going back to the business credit thing, I got a comment here. So it's more like buying a house then with DTI ratios and all of that. That actually makes a lot more sense now why they look favorably on if you own a house or not.
Yeah, they want to see a lot of assets. The more assets you have, the more likely they are to be able to cover the cost of that asset that they've now given to you and wanting you to pay back, right? So, yes, you've got the value of the truck, and I keep using truck. There's other things you might need for, need a business loan on. Perhaps it's a trailer, perhaps it's a line of credit. I don't know, but they want access, first in line access to those assets so that if you default, they can come after them. And if your business assets do not satisfy the notes, they then want to be able to come after your personal assets. And if you've got a home, if you've got retirement accounts, if you've got other things like that, they're going to want access to those to satisfy the debt that you've taken on with them.
Ah, okay. All right. Going to number 8 on your table of contents Factoring receivables. What is your thoughts on factoring?
So we see a lot of folks do this. In fact, there's a lot of factoring companies that also have associated brokerages with them. So you've got folks that are using the factoring company, and then on the back side, they're also that's where they're getting their freights. And when it comes to the factoring, it really is kind of another way. It's similar in a sense financially to driving under a motor carrier's authority, right? Because that factoring company is fronting you the money associated with the loads that you're hauling, and they're charging you a fee for that. If you think about a motor carrier and driving under a motor carrier's authority, they're paying you weekly via settlement for the loads that you've hauled. That motor carrier has not collected on those loads that you've hauled for perhaps 30, 60, 90 days. And so they're fronting that money to you. Same thing with a factoring company. They are fronting, they take on the risk associated with collecting on that load that you have hauled, and there's a price for that. Some of the factoring companies have pretty exorbitant fees, and you've got to be careful about that. There are good factoring companies and there are bad factoring companies, just like there are good motor carriers and bad motor carriers. So you've just got to be aware. You really need to shop around, make sure you're getting a good factor, and it's probably when we look at the ease of getting a business going, the easiest is to run under somebody else's authority. Maybe the next easiest is running under your own authority, but using a factor with a brokerage. If you can get to the point where you don't need a factoring company, and you've got an office that can handle the collections associated with the loads that you are hauling, that's really the best thing to do, because you're going to get more of your money earns. You've just got to make sure you've got good clients and that they're not going to stiff you for the money, right? So there are pros and cons to all of this, but when it comes to the factoring, just really shop around and make sure you're getting a good one. Ask other drivers, look at reviews. Keep in mind there's going to be good and bad reviews for everybody. There's no perfect or unicorn company out there. There's gonna be good and bad, but weigh it all the way across the board, and make the best decision you can on which one to use.
Okay, let's move into the next one. It is DOT regulated freight versus regulated freight in cargo vans.
Yeah, so we dive into this a bit. We actually have a lot of clients that are driving cargo van. And so when we look at that and consider it, it's unregulated freight. There's a lot less requirements that they have, a lot less they have to do than a lot of you listeners have to worry about. There's really nothing they have to do with the ELD. Some of the motor carriers that deal in this will still use a type of ELD, especially for the dispatch of the freight. A lot of them will use Samsara or other type devices. But for somebody coming into the industry who perhaps doesn't have the ability to get into a $180,000 Freightliner, they can consider instead getting into, say, a $60,000 or $70,000 Sprinter. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are folks that make a lot of really good money driving unregulated freights, and still going cross country in these Sprinter vans. Yeah, I wouldn't bat an eye at some of the types of operations that we see. So it's just another line of freight to consider when you're getting into this industry, or perhaps looking for your own operation. If you're a company driver and you're like, I just don't want to take the risk of getting into a full size truck, well, then maybe you think about going into a Sprinter operation.
Number 10 talks about specialized opportunities in straight trucks and expedited freight, which I get now why you're releasing this at that truck show. There'll
Yeah.
be a lot
So
of that there.
yeah, a lot of folks in there. If you've never been in one of these straight trucks, especially the types that are doing like the white glove type work with, say, FedEx, the pharmaceuticals, DoD, you'll see them from time to time at the truck stops that have the extended cabs on, or the extended beds on them, sleepers. And those things are nice. I mean, they make my fifth wheel look like a dump, right? I mean, some of these things have toilets in them, and they'll carry 100 gallons of water, and others, and they're really nice. We've got a lot of clients that have these. A lot of married couples, they'll do this for retirements, and they'll head out there, and they're just driving cross country and enjoying life. The thing about expedite freight is it's usually going to be lower miles, higher rates, right? So you may get a load from, I don't know, say Columbus down to Laredo, and then you may deadhead to California, and then you may head up to Oregon, and then you might sit for a week, and while you're waiting for the next load. But in doing that, the rate difference is going to compensate for the fact that you're not getting the same amount of miles. So some folks like to just go out there and they just want the windshield time, right? They just love moving. Others, they want a more relaxed, and I don't want to say less stressful, because it's always stressful no matter what you're doing, but they want the time to be able to kind of see the country, take more time to stop and fish or golf or see the sights. And so there's pros and cons to all of it. And there are a lot of good operations out there, motor carriers that can present that kind of an opportunity. And there are, again, bad ones that we see folks that just cannot make the money. Now, the thing about those trucks, even just a standard straight is going to be a lot more than what you would think. And some of these really nice with the huge sleepers on them, I mean, those things will go for $500,000-600,000. So
Wow.
keep that in mind, and again, just evaluate what it is that you want to do.
All righty, let's get into another one here. This is a pretty good question. If I rent an apartment because I'm in that city all the time, it's strictly for business use. Can I claim that apartment, or am I better off getting a hotel like an extended stay?
Um, no, yeah, that's really pushing some lines. The IRS, if you're audited, they're going to look at that and they're going to say, well, what's the difference between that and somebody who has their home in in Sailor, I don't know, wherever, pick a place. um they're not going to fall for that. They're going to call it for what it is, and that is, it's where you're going to stay during your downtime. And so it's just not worth the risk, in my opinion, to try and write that off as a business expense. Because when the IRS walks into that and they see the kitchen and the bedroom and the furniture and the TV, they're just going to say, no, this is a home. And then when they ask for your lease agreement and they see that it's in your name, um, and then so the next question is, well, what if I do the lease in my business name? Again, no, it's just not going to work that way. You've got to differentiate between your personal life and your business life. And one of the ways we do that is, where do we work and where do we live? And so unfortunately, no. Stick with the hotel or the extended stay.
And number 11, other standard freight types. So you've already talked about what most of us do over the road. You've talked about expedited and straight trucks and cargo vans. What would some other standard freight types be?
So I've mentioned some of them a little bit here, but we get into flatbed, we get into the heavy haul, we get into oil fields a little bit. So there's all these different types of freight out there that many of our clients, or many of our listeners, are probably in right now or have been in. And we get a lot of this from the clients that we have. We've got hot shot as an example, is another area that we have a lot of clients. I've got a client, their business, in fact, is they go down to the airport. I won't say where, but they go to the airport, and they are picking up live animals, usually dogs, and they are transporting those dogs in special types of kennels in a pickup truck, a retrofitted pickup truck with some special accommodations for the animals in the back of the truck. And they are then driving those animals to some other location. Sometimes it's for training. Other times it might be for some type of a medical procedure. So these are usually rich people that care a lot about their pets and are paying for them to be transported in a more comfortable situation than what they might get by just getting thrown into the back of a truck or back of a vehicle. So there's all kinds of different applications out there, and the point is we want folks to look at that and really consider, what is it that I'm doing. It's not that there's anything wrong with just getting into a truck and hauling dry van, right? That's a very profitable business for many people, but understanding all the variety of options out there for folks and being able to differentiate yourself is an important part of being able to be successful in business. So differentiate yourself, find ways to do that, and look for those opportunities within what you know. And if you know transportation, differentiate yourself and find ways to maximize your income through all of these various options of transportation.
All right, here's another good one. A lot of people don't know the difference, and I'm kind of surprised. Number 12, of course, we're talking about contract freight versus spot market freight. It was in the news a lot lately where they'd say contract rates were up, spot market rates were down. And what is the difference between the two, and what should we all know about contract rates and spot market freight?
One of the important things to understand about them is that they are very closely tied, and usually in an inverse way. So it's not very often that you're going to be in a situation where there's equilibrium between the spot markets and the contract market. Okay, because the reason for that is um, most of the spot market freight is coming from rejected contract freight. So when we talk about the tender rejection rate and why we want, for those of you on the spot market, the reason we want that tender rejection rate to be high is because what that says is there's a lot of freight on the contract market that is not being there are better options for those carriers within that contract market to haul better freight, more expensive freight somewhere else, and so they will reject those loads. They'll reject that contract freight, and when that happens, that contract freight ends up on the spot market. And so if we flood the spot market with rejected loads or rejected tenders from contract carriers, there's now a surplus of freight in the spot market for folks to need to haul. And so it's all about supply and demand. If the spot market has fewer and fewer loads because there are less and less rejections in contract freight, then the supply of loads for those of you that are in the spot market to haul is going to be down. And if the supply is down, your rates are going to be down because there's too many of you bidding on that spot market freight. And so the two options are: we need more freight to come into the spot market by being rejected in the contract market, or we need more of you to exit the spot market entirely, or some combination of both. And so that's when we start looking at the variables that play into where the spot market is at. We look at things like for hire jobs that are out there. We look at things like what's going on with produce and what's going on with housing, because that's going to tell us the demand on the freight side. But it's also those indicators are also going to tell us some information about how many available trucks and drivers are out there to haul that. And so right now we're in a situation where there was an increase in the supply of drivers and equipment, and we've had a pretty significant decline in the demand of loads available. And so there's more of you to haul less freight, and as a result, there's less tender rejection, and there's less freight coming to the spot market. So it's all tied together, and it's just part of the free market and the way it works. And so I going back to one of the questions you asked me early on is when are we going to see that change? I think we see it change or start to be impacted in a positive way again later into this year, or perhaps spring to summer of next year. And the reason for that will be, one, hopefully the economy is able to stay strong enough that demand products out in the economy stays at least at where it's at now. But more and more, unfortunately, more and more folks are going out of business. And so we'll start to see the numbers of trucks and capacity available to haul that freight start to come down.
Okay, Gary had a good question for you. Are you available to file taxes who live for truckers who live in any state? Is there any state that you can't do taxes in?
Canada. I do not do state taxes in Canada.
There you
Um,
go.
no, we do all 50 states and are happy to do so.
Good deal. Midlife Trucker says tender rejections are down because the contract carriers aren't seeing better options.
Yeah,
And then,
that goes back to what I'm saying. The contract carriers are kind of just taking what they can get. There's not better options available to them to reject loads that they see. To give you an idea, when spot market was at its peak, the tender rejection was about 28-29%, if I remember right. Um, that means that somewhere between 1 in 4 to 1 in 3 loads was rejected on the contract market. That's a ton of freight coming into the spot market. Whereas now it's down around 3%. So 3 out of every 100 is rejected. That gives you an idea. From 1 in 4 to 3 in 100, that's going to be a pretty significant decrease overall to the tender rejection, and a lot fewer good loads out there for you guys to haul and bid on.
all righty, let's keep going here. The next on the list is one of the ones I really like talking about. Well, we hadn't got to that yet. Factors influencing freight rates.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just touched on that, right?
We've pretty
It's
much hit that. I
Yeah.
didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to get there. Next, we're talking about KPIs. What are they, and what all do they involve?
I actually think I talked about this on your show once. We spent some time on
Yeah,
KPIs, key performance indicators.
we've circled around. I just mentioned them again in case we got some new people here,
Yeah.
but we can
So the
skip that one too.
no, it's all right. So the KPIs, it's just understanding your numbers is really what it comes down to, and having certain numbers that you follow within your own operation, and by doing so, it's kind of a gauge as to how your business is running and how profitable it is, right? Kind of the ultimate KPI is your bottom line. How much money are you making? But there are plenty of other KPIs out there, and we dive into what those KPIs are and how you track them, how you calculate them. We provide a lot of those KPIs within what we do at Trucker CFO. So numbers are important. Even if you don't calculate them, you need to know some of them.
Okay, let's see here. The next one on the list would be optimizing fuel cost with fuel card programs. Everybody in here knows I use ES Advantage. I've got a link down in the description of my videos, and I save about $1,300 a month when I use their card. And I'd be curious your thoughts on fuel cards and things like that.
If you're not participating in a solid fuel program, you are absolutely stabbing yourself in the foot. Like it's just there is no reason for it. You need to do what it takes to get a good fuel program. We see folks that don't have a good fuel program that are regularly spending 40 to perhaps 50% of every dollar on fuel. That is just absolutely ridiculous. Whereas the folks that have good solid fuel programs, we can see that number come in closer to the 20 to 25%. So you've got to the ES Advantage program is a great one. Take advantage of it. If you're not using that, find another one, but use something. There's no reason whatsoever to be out there paying, full price for fuel. So you got to do something, and we dive into that quite a bit in the document.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention on my website, if you go to truckertodd.net, I've got links for those fuel cards as well. You can just click on that, and it'll get you in touch with them. So you don't have to worry about finding it in the description. I know a lot of y'all have trouble with that. Let's see here. There it is. Do all loads get covered when a carrier or broker posts them? I can tell you no, but I'll let Colton answer that.
Yeah, no, no, that they don't. And if every load is getting covered, then it's going to be bad for y'all, right? Because again, there's just not enough. If that's happening, there's so little freight out there that there's way more capacity than needed to cover what's available. So no, they don't. And a lot of times you look at relationships like, I mean, there's a lot of them. CH Robinson has it, JB Hunt has it, CR England has it. They're these mega carriers. I'm actually trying to think if Swift Knight do this or not. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But the motor carrier has their contract freight. And when the motor carrier can't cover all of those loads, they then throw the loads over to their brokerage, um, the England Logistics. So CR England, the motor carrier can't cover all of their available loads within the motor carrier. They then throw the excess over to England Logistics. That's how that works. And so the motor carriers, as they kind of figured this out, it's a great way for them to make additional money because they're not losing out on that load. They now have smaller motor carriers that are signed up for the brokerage to come in and haul that load for them. And so that's a big part of what they're doing to generate profit. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great way for owner operators to get in on some good freights. And many of them are signed up for lots of different brokerages, probably signed up for every one of the ones I just mentioned. And they're playing the brokerages against themselves to the best that they can, and trying to find the best loads available through those brokerages.
So Gary says he has Com Data fuel card and the discounts are horrible. All of you guys, you really need to check out ES Advantage after the show. I'm not kidding you. You will be shocked. There's times that you're saving. They say an average of 55 cents a gallon, but I've seen savings of over $1.30 a gallon. You need to check it out. And I even recommend getting two or three fuel cards and comparing them, but definitely 99% of the time, ES Advantage is going to be right there on the top with your fuel savings. And so I really hope you guys will take the time to check that out.
And Todd, one of the things that we hear about, whether it's ES Advantage or any of the other ones, right? It's like, well, it's a prepaid card. I can't do that. Yes, you can, and you absolutely need to. You've got to take the time to build up the cash to get into that card so that you can use it on a regular basis. And if that means just throwing, a little bit at it at a time, do it. Because in a fairly short amount of time, you're going to have the necessary capital built up on that program to be able to use it all the time.
Yeah, the way I do it is I try to keep 1,500 in there, and then each time I fuel, I send an ACH in to replace that. So I can get about two tanks, maybe three tanks out of a $1,500 deal. And if I spend 600 on fuel, then that day I ACH 600 in there, and I've always got fuel in there, and I don't feel it like a lot of people do. But if you can't do that, put $200 in there this week. Next week, put another 200 in there, and before long, you'll have that 1,500, and then it's easy. It's like pedaling a bicycle. Once you get going, it gets easier. Let's see here. Let's get a couple more comments. When I was lease, I used RTS Pro, XPO, TSD Open Roads, and Mudflap. Yeah, Mudflap is another one I use, but still 9 times out of 10, ES Advantage beats them substantially, usually by at least a quarter or a gallon. So occasionally you'll get in an area where maybe Mudflap has a special deal or something, but 9 times out of 10, that ES Advantage is just going to clobber them. Let's see, we'll skip that one. When I use Com Data, I'm only getting 8 cents off of pump price. Yeah, that's terrible. I'll tell you why. Because even before I had ES Advantage, I had my own fuel card that I had negotiated with Pilot Flying J, and I was getting like 20 cents a gallon just by myself. And if you're only getting 8 cents, there's definitely better programs out there. And like I said, if you don't believe me, get the ES Advantage, try it for a week and see how much you save during that week, and I think you'll be surprised. ES Advantage is a prepaid card. Why not get a real card like RTS Pro or XPO? Well, it's the fuel savings. It you can get if you're cash strapped and you need a credit card to make it, then I guess that's an option. But if you're cash strapped, you might want to look at why. It I think you're going to be better off saving, and if you can save 1,300 a month, or there's people saving more than me, I think that's what you want to look at, and not whether you have to do a savings account or a credit account.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, let's answer this for Tim. Sorry for bringing it back up, but I'm confused. You talked about no more per diem for company driver, but my company is still paying me per diem. So am I going to have problems when I do my taxes? I think he was talking about the per diem where you get so many dollars a day, and not the per diem where they do a certain number of cents out of your pay. Isn't that right, Colton?
Well, so he's absolutely right. There are still per diem programs for company drivers. The difference is they did away with taking per diem as a tax deduction on a company driver tax return. So it used to be that there were not a whole lot of companies that offered per diem programs like what Tim is talking about, because the company driver could take it as a deduction on their tax return, and it essentially had the same impact. Okay, so what's happening in Tim's case is he is being paid, and I don't know what the numbers are, but he's being paid W-2 income that's going to have. Let's just use some round numbers. Let's say his total pay is $80,000. Okay, so he gets paid a total of 80,000. Well, when he gets a W-2, it might be that it shows only 60,000 of that 80,000 is taxable, and the other 20,000 is non-taxable income through per diem reimbursement. All right, so he's got 60 of taxable, 80 of non-taxable on his W-2 income. Well, prior to this change with the tax code, what was happening was all $80,000 was showing up as taxable income on your W-2, but then you were getting a deduction through Schedule A on your tax return for unreimbursed employee expenses of, say, $20,000. So you were able to take this deduction and reduce your taxable income on your tax return to where it has more or less the same impact between what it was prior to the tax code changes and what it is now. It's just a matter of where you're getting it. Are you getting it on the tax return or getting it through your actual paycheck? And so the issue comes in that not all motor carriers offer it. And oftentimes, if they do offer it, it's not in an amount that is going to equal what you were getting through the tax deduction. And so those are some of the considerations that have to be looked at.
All righty. Let's see here. Lost my spot. All right, now we're going to talk about navigating electronic logging devices in the trucking industry.
Yeah, so we talk about all the variety of ELDs that are out there. There are a lot of them, obviously, that you know, a lot of motor carriers, again, going back to the choice of you drive for somebody else's authority or your own. If you're driving under somebody else's authority, they're going to mandate the ELD that you use. Uh, then again, if you're in a situation that you get to choose your ELD, it's not always best to price shop, right? A lot of folks just go out there, what's the least expensive one? Um, Maybe it's the best one, but I don't think it is. So you want to make sure you're getting something that's going to work, that you're not going to get shut down. And then also there are considerations to look at in terms of what are the other services that come with your ELD. So, for example, when it comes to IFTA, many of the ELDs will offer some sort of solution for calculating IFTA. It's so data intensive. At Trucker CFO, we don't even get into IFTA because of the data associated with it, to where if we were to try and do it and we had to do it manually, I could never be cost competitive in comparison to the ELDs that have these solutions that have the data right at the tips of their hands and they can automate that, right? So you want to look for a solution that's going to provide those tools to you and lots of other tools as well that come with these ELDs. And then another big one to consider is what are the capabilities associated with getting the data out of the ELD. That's important, one for IFTA, but also it's important for justifying your per diem. When it comes to the per diem, if you're audited, one of the best ways to justify your per diem deduction is to have a printout of your electronic logs in PDF or paper format, and just say to the auditor, "Here are my logs." It's going to show you where I was at and for how long. And so those are some of the things that we get into in in the ebook that we've put together.
All righty, number 17, enhancing safety and dispelling efficiency concerns, the impact of ELDs in the trucking industry. I'm surprised I'm saying this, but I actually like ELDs because I remember when planners and dispatchers used to call you and they'd say, "Hey, we really need to stretch this load and get it there." And you'd be exhausted and they'd force you to run tired. And now, if the computer says you can't do it, then it's the planner's problem. They've either got to repower the load or reschedule it. So to me, it took a lot of stress off of me.
Yeah, and there have actually been studies, and we cite these studies that back up what you're saying, Todd, but also that show that there's actually been an increase in efficiency. So there are a lot of good things that have come from this. You don't have a choice as to whether or not you're on board. There are still the naysayers out there when it comes to the electronic logs, but we talk about the pros and cons and some of the myths that are out there associated with having to move to electronic logs.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Let's see here. Transportation management software for efficient operations.
Yeah, so TMS, a lot of folks may not even know what a
Problems again.
TMS. You still hearing me? Hey, Todd, you still there? All right. Well, while he's
Can
coming back,
anybody hear me?
yep, we can hear you.
All right, there we are. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, you're still
Okay, I'm
there.
back. Okay, the technical Tuesday, like always. So it's transportation management software for efficient operations.
Yeah. So TMS, for folks that don't know what TMS solutions are, these are going to be more for, excuse me, they're going to be more for the um, the larger operations, small fleets that have their own authority and need a solution that is going to tie in the freight that they are hauling with the capacity that they have available to haul that freight. Many of them also tie into their accounting systems. And so it really becomes the backbone of your trucking operation. But it's important to understand that not every operation needs a TMS because many of you will be utilizing the TMS of, say, a motor carrier or a brokerage. There's lots of applications where you don't need a TMS, and so we present some of the options out there that we are familiar with and the pros and cons of those options, and just more than anything, probably educate a lot of folks on what the TMS is and how they work.
All righty, number 19, accounting solutions for small business trucking companies.
This is a great section because we talk a lot about trucker CFO and all the things that we can do for you. And we also talk about the other options out there. We talk about the different types of accounting. So we have a variety of different solutions out there from QuickBooks for the more complex type operations that need something like that, to more of your traditional kind of settlement based one truck operation. And so we go into the pros and cons of that and how we can help regardless of which solution you happen to be a part of or need.
All righty. Let's see here. The next one would be compliance with IRS and DOT requirements.
Yeah, so this it's kind of a continuation of the accounting solutions and what's available out there. It's important to note that there are implications for truckers not being compliant with the IRS and how that can impact you with the DOT. And not only the federal Department of Transportation, but also at the state levels. We have examples of folks who have gotten behind on their tax liabilities with different states, and those states have suspended their CDLs until they get compliant. So it's important to keep current on your tax liabilities and understand the interactions between the DOT regs and the IRS regs.
Wow. All right, now here's the fun one where I'm going to get myself in trouble. Number 21, political risk impacting small businesses, trucking companies, analysis and implications. Let's see if I can do this without picking a political party.
Yeah, it is definitely politically risky right now for truckers. California is leading the charge, and they are trying to make it impossible for you to be an owner operator. Or if not impossible, they're trying to make it very difficult on you. And in light of what happened with the Supreme Court not deciding to rule on AB5, um, and the fact that the vice president, the current vice president, is in fact one of the primary authors of AB5 during her time back in California. She is also part of the writing and an effort to get what's called the PRO Act passed at the federal level. The PRO Act is, for all intents and purposes, AB5 at the federal level. And so there are definitely political risks. And the safest way to protect yourself from these risks is to go to the full extent of what we talk about in this ebook, and that is get your own authority, differentiate yourself from the motor carriers and the brokerages, and be a standalone business entity, not reliant on the operations of other companies in your same market, is kind of what it comes down to. You're not required to do that yet unless you live in California. But it is likely that other states will follow suit. You look at New Jersey, you look at Illinois, um, uh, other kind of that northeast corridor is where a lot of this will happen. But and also basically look at the coasts, right? It pretty much follows the political landscape of the country. You look at the coasts, and you've just got to protect yourself. And so, if you need to at least be aware of what's going on, so that if it looks like perhaps the PRO Act were to be passed, then you've got things lined up to where you can at least go out and do the things necessary to be able to continue your operation. Now, the chances right now of the PRO Act passing are zero. It's not going to happen because the House of Representatives is controlled by the Republicans and the Senate is controlled by the Democrats. It'll never make its way out of the House. If we have a situation where the Democrats control the House and they control the Senate and they control the presidency, well, then it's likely the PRO Act will get passed. So you just got to stay apprised of these the political happenings within the industry, and regardless of which way you lean, your ability to make money is in large part impacted negatively by one of the parties. And so you can vote in ways, if that is the way you lean, you need to look for candidates that don't support legislation like this, but are more small business friendly. Then again, if you lean towards the Republicans, you're pretty much guaranteed you're not going to be voting for somebody who would support the PRO Act or at the state level support other legislation such as AB5. So be aware of these things, and you need to really start to learn how to vote based on what's impacting your bottom line.
We got a couple of questions we need to sprinkle in. I'm filing as a sole proprietor. I'm grossing over 400K. Should I change to an S corp or an LLC?
Um, well, it depends, and it depends on it depends. Are you grossing over 400K, but you're only netting 25K? Or are you grossing 400K and you're netting 180K? That S Corp decision is going to be more centered on what your net is and less about what your gross is.
Okay. AB5 is really about getting taxes that some use 1099s to avoid.
Um, Sort of. Yes. I mean, that's definitely a part of it. California felt like they were missing out on tax revenue because folks that were being 1099 weren't paying their taxes. Definitely part of it. It's also much more political in nature. And there's just a lot of lobbying that takes place by the unions that really don't want the independent contractor and truckers to be out on their own. They want situations where you are required to be a company driver and as such required to join some of their unions, and as a result they get the unionized dues. So that is really where this is coming from. The argument about taxes is just a cover. Because the fact of the matter is, the compliance for tax purposes is not significantly lower for 1099 individuals than it is for any other population within the tax base. And so, again, it's just a cover. And most of you are law abiding citizens wanting to pay your taxes and trying to do so in a way that minimizes your tax liability, but that you still file and you adhere to the law. The rest of it is politics and dirty politics at that.
All righty. Mark gave us a little clarification. 178,000 net.
So yes, he absolutely should be an S corp. I'm trying to see his original question. I can't remember if he already is an LLC or not. Let's see.
No, he was running as a sole proprietor.
Sole prop. Okay, so this is a perfect example of reactive versus proactive tax advice, right? No LLC, 178K net. There's not much we can do for you right now in terms of your tax liability for say 2022. Um, First thing you should do is give us a call and let's talk about getting a business entity in place. Let's get that LLC set up because in doing so, we're going to immediately make an S corporation election on that LLC, and you will start getting the benefits of an S corporation as of the date that your LLC is set up. So, yeah, reach out to us, give us a call tomorrow, and we can help you get that process going.
All righty. The next question or the next section that we were going to cover, and I'll get in some more comments here in just a second, is industry associations and small business trucking companies.
Yeah, so here we talk about uh, the kind of the big dogs, I guess, when it comes to the industry associations. And we talk about the more driver friendly associations versus the more motor carrier friendly associations and what each of them do. And give our thoughts on each. I think each do play a good role overall for the industry. At times, they differ on approach and perhaps on outcome as to what they want to see. And so it's important to understand. Either way, my recommendation is that you should stay up to date on what it is they are all doing. You don't necessarily have to be a member of each or even a member of any, but you should stay close to what they are doing. What are the lobbying efforts that they are spending their money on? Because that's going to tell you a lot about where the industry is going or trending in the next few years.
All righty. ProDriver says the bill was additionally introduced in April 2022. The bill would create a 2-year refundable tax credit of up to $7,500 for truck drivers holding a valid CDLA. Read more on CDL Life. Yeah, I'm familiar with that story. I was just waiting until it got a little bit further along before I did a video on it or anything. There's a ton of stuff that gets proposed that never goes anywhere, and I'm waiting until it gets a little further along. Do you have any thoughts on it, Colton?
Well, a lot of times when these things happen, folks think that it is like set in stone, when in fact, it's only made it through one house, right? So right now, in the current political environment, it is very difficult to get something through to law. To get something to Biden's desk and signed is very difficult because you have split House. You've got Republican House, you've got Democratic Senate, and getting them on the same page about anything is very, very difficult. And so, it's don't get confused. This happened a lot with the Inflation Reduction Act, and certain things that were a part of that. Initially it had only made it through one house, and we get people calling us on it and asking questions like, "Hey, it's not even there yet." Also, we another situation is we had people saying, "Well, the IRS is not going to get that money. The Republicans are going to repeal the money for the IRS." And they passed a bill saying as such. In fact, I think they did it day one. It doesn't matter; they've got to get it through both houses. Now, when it comes to the debt ceiling, there is actually a carve out in there that reduces funding for the IRS. I believe, if I remember right from what I read, it peels back the funding for the current year or perhaps the upcoming year. I can't remember which. And so it sounds like the Republicans are going to try and do that in a way that carves that money back for each year. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot to our political to our governments and the way that works, and you're going to hear a lot in the news that say certain things, but until it's been signed and passed all the way through the entire government, it's not law.
Yeah, and important thing to remember when we get this close to the next round of elections, neither side wants the other side to get a win. So nothing's going to happen right before an election because they're afraid the other side will get credit for it. And so don't look for anything to happen until after the presidential elections. And even then, it really depends on what the structural makeup is. If one party wins all three branches, or if it's split between the branches, or how that all comes out. But I hope I didn't offend anybody so far. I get in trouble every time I talk politics. Is it hard to change from a C corp to an S corp?
Um, Hard is relative. We know how to do it, and we do it on a regular basis. If you are a C corp, more than likely, we're going to recommend to you that we have, at a minimum, a discussion about whether or not you should be filing as an S corp. So give us a call. We do it all the time. It is not something I would recommend you go try and do by yourself because it is likely the IRS will reject it due to the very specific nature of the filing that has to be made and how that filing has to be cited.
All right. Tom says it's not the bills being signed into law that are the problem. It's the rules and regulations that are done strictly in the executive, like speed limiters. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of executive orders either, but I realize their necessity in some instances.
Yeah, and it's you look back over history, and the executive orders are being significantly overused on both sides, and it's just a function of split government. They realize they can't get anything done legislatively, and so to show some kind of progress, they just do these executive orders. And they always, regardless of the side, they're going to argue that the executive orders are necessary because the other side won't play ball. But the you can be as far right or as far left as you want. The fact of the matter is there has to be some compromise. In any relationship in life, you've got to compromise. You're never going to get everything you want. That is not what relationships are. And our government and our way of governing is one big relationship between peoples who disagree. And the only way we're going to come together and get things done is by coming together and getting things done, and compromising. And we've got to find, definitely there are those things that are just deal breakers, and I get it, but we've got to find a way to improve our country. We've got to find a way to negotiate and to compromise on certain things.
Here's another comment. It's not even the executive orders, it's simply just the FMCSA making a rule and publishing it.
Yeah, you've got this what you know what a lot of us call it, the swamp in DC. Those are examples of the swamp, and just folks that are not elected, that are just making rules, rules for thee but not for me, I think is what it is. So we need that stuff all needs to be cleaned out. There are some rules that are good. You've got to have some oversight, but it's gotten out of control.
Oh boy, midlife trucker. When he becomes dictator, there will be some serious changes. Coffee will be subsidized for all. Exactly. If you guys want to nominate me to a political office and start a super PAC for me, I'll definitely make some big changes when I'm in office. But um, we've been going for a little over an hour and a half now. If you've got any questions for Trucker CFO, throw them up and we'll try to get to them. Y'all have been pretty active tonight, so it's been good. The number 23 on his list is just the conclusion, so we can hold off on that a minute if y'all have got anything else. Uh, Okay, here's a good one. Shannon Thomas, by the way, is somebody I hope you can meet before too long. She also has a YouTube channel. I worked with her at Dart, and she's a real numbers person. I think if you two could meet each other, it'd be good. How can you find out what your NCIS code is for your business?
Um, so there's two ways I could interpret that question. Perhaps she's asking, how do I see what code has been put on my tax return? Or perhaps she's asking, how do I know which one I'm supposed to be? And so there's different ways of answering that question. If you're wondering which one's been used for your tax return, usually you can see it on the tax return. There's a specific section. Most of the time, the code that we use for our clients is 484120. 484120. There are some variations to that from time to time, but that's generally speaking what we do. Also, you can Google it. There are ways to go out and just kind of put some information. Heck, if you're familiar with Chat GPT, you can go out and ask Chat GPT as well what NCIS code you should be based on information you put about your business. So there's hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, I think this is a troll question, but I'll throw it up anyway. I'm feeling that way tonight. Tell us some deductible stuff as a trucker and YouTuber, camera, drones, etc.
So as a trucker, it really what it comes down to is the question: is it ordinary and necessary? So as a trucker, is it ordinary and necessary? Fuel, yes, it's ordinary and necessary. You can't get anywhere without fuel. Your truck, yes, it's ordinary and necessary. Your apartments in the city you go to every time you deliver, no, that's not ordinary. It is necessary, I get. You've got to have somewhere to live. And in fact, the IRS requires you for your per diem to have somewhere you call home, but it's not a business expense. It's not business necessary. Your ability to make money and to generate a profit within your trucking business is not dependent on you having an apartment at the city you deliver to. Does that make sense? So, but your ability to make money and deliver a profit for your business is absolutely reliant on your ability to buy fuel. So it's going to be deductible.
So I was mistaken. It wasn't a semi troll question. He is a truck driver and a YouTuber. So he's asking for his YouTube side of it. He is monetized. Can he deduct cameras and drones and things he uses for video production if he's a monetized channel?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because
You
that'd be
should, and yeah, you should keep track of all that. You should keep some books on that. And there are different ways of filing that. As we've gotten more into this, we are evaluating. It's frankly a new a newer type of challenge for the IRS as they start to look at these influencers that your primary source of income is one business. Do we consider the YouTube aspect of it a separate business? Maybe, maybe not. but then again, it's reliant on you continuing the primary business. So there's a lot of considerations there that we're looking at and continuing to follow and take a look at what the IRS does with that. But at its, at the root of it, yes, money that you're spending to be able to continue to monetize your operation as a YouTuber is going to be deductible.
Okay, let's see. What else have you guys got? Sorry for that, Tom. I didn't realize you had a channel. I'm going to check it out after the show. Anybody else? We're at an hour and 40 minutes, and I'm sure he's tired. We don't want to keep him on here if everybody's wrapped it up. All right, let's move on to the conclusion then while everybody's thinking. In conclusion, what are some key points that you want us to take away from this when we read it?
In conclusion, it's important for folks to understand the entire, maybe not the entire industry, but a large swath of the industry. You need to stay up to date on things, right? Just because you do one thing doesn't mean you should just focus entirely on that one thing. So learn and be apprised of what's going on in your industry. Second, as Trucker CFO, our team, we recognize the importance of getting good relevant information out to you. It's not just about accounting. It's not just about taxes with Trucker CFO. As a CFO, like a CFO in any other industry, we are going to bring to you that relevant information and put these tools and this information in your hands to allow you to make good, competent decisions. And you are the CEO of your business. You need to be the CEO of your business, and you can rely on Trucker CFO to help you with those decisions. But at the end of the day, it's your decision. So that's what we talk about in this ebook. I'm excited to get it out. We continue to work on it and modify it and add to it. So we'll see how it ends up come July 22nd, I think it was, out in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and hope to see you guys there. It is not just about expedites. There is a whole separate section of the show that will be about other aspects of the trucking industry. So if you can swing by Fort Wayne, Indiana, in late July, do it and come and say hi to me.
All righty, good deal. Well, thank you for coming on tonight, and we'll catch you later. And we appreciate all the information you've shared tonight.
All right, Todd. Talk to you later, and we'll be in touch.
All righty, and I just want to remind everybody that in the clicker below or the ticker below the video, it has his contact information. Give him a call tomorrow morning with all your tax questions, and his staff will be happy to help you and help you make the decisions you need to make. And I've they've really helped me a lot this year, especially in January. They removed so much stress. I had ATBS, and I couldn't have been more frustrated. But yeah, we always look forward to having him on the last Tuesday of the month. There's a lot of great information there. Shannon says, "Great show, big thanks." Yeah, I appreciate you being here, Shannon. I didn't know you still watched, but yeah, I would especially like you to talk to him because the type of questions you used to ask me, he'd be perfect for you. And you're going to find their prices are super competitive with other tax accounting service companies out there. But you're going to find that the service and the advice is a lot more personalized and a lot more specific. And I've gave examples in the past where they would just pick up the phone and call me, "Hey, you sent this receipt in. We've got a question about it," and we would talk about it. And ATBS would have never done that. They would have just thrown it in the trash, and I would have never known. And so it's a lot more personalized service than what you get at some of the big box places. But it's really good is all I can say. I know I harp on it a lot, but I've been blown away honestly with the level of service. And so let's see what else we got here. Another great show. Thank you very much, American Trucker. I appreciate that. Ah, I didn't realize you worked there. A good friend of mine works at that company. Um, good deal. All right, let's see. What else have y'all got tonight? I know y'all are wanting me to discuss the Kenworth I bought. Here's what I can say so far. And I got the truck, I got home, and I went to get a state inspection done to it today. And there were some issues, some corners were cut. And I do not believe that the shop, or not the shop, that the dealership did anything underhanded or crooked or anything like that. But there were definitely some shortcuts taken. And honestly, by their action, I don't believe the dealership knew about it. The dealership is working with me to help me get those things fixed. It is going to delay me a couple of days, but yeah, it was a little bit of a shocker today. The first estimate I received was $9,800, and then I found another estimate for around I want to say about 2,500. So I do believe the first shop I took it here in Lubbock was trying to milk me a little bit, and but we're getting it all worked out, and I'm still really really excited, and everything's going to be fine. But the company I'm leasing on to, I'm probably going to have to run their plates instead of my plates as a result of that. Let's see what else we got. His name is Colton, and if you look in the little ticker going across the bottom of the screen, it'll have his direct number. It'll go to his desk, and like I say, he'll get it first thing in the morning. But yeah, I think it'd be great for you two to get to know each other, and it'd be good for you to holler at me sometime. Let me know how you're doing. I know we went through a situation, but that's all behind us now. Um, I see you've grown a lot. I seen you on another podcast the other day, and things are going well. And we may want to bring you on a Tuesday show and kind of let you talk about your journey and stuff like that. So shoot me an email at todd@truckertodd.net, or reach out to Colton over at Trucker CFO, and it'll be good. American Trucker, are you happy there making money? I was there for 15 weeks. Yeah, I would be curious about you guys over there too. I've got a good friend that works over there. He's pretty happy. There's some things about the company that were a no go for me, but I know a lot of people that are there are really, really happy. I know some of the people in the office, and I'm just curious what you guys think about it. Yeah, I did decide where I put it, where I'm going to be putting it. I'm meeting with the owner of the company on Friday. He's flying out to Lubbock. We're going to go out to dinner together and discuss everything, and then hopefully sometime next week I'll be working with him. But I'm probably not going to publicly say where that's at. He's on the company side and says it's going good. There's a lot of nice people there. Yeah, for sure. Not the forward facing camera. That's a given thing that everybody has, and regardless of if they have one or don't have one, I would also have a forward facing camera. When you start talking about inward facing cameras, that's when I'm out. I won't do an inward facing camera. And I even had discussions with them. It's been a little while back. Uh, I actually have my own truck, and I actually talked to the third highest step person in the company, I believe, third or fourth, about me coming there with my own truck, and he said I'd still have to put the inward facing camera. And it may be an unrealistic fear, but I don't. That's not a road I'm willing to go down yet. Now, if my options were more limited, I might be willing to take a shot, especially because of what you're saying right here. A lot of people are saying they're not having any issues with the camera. They're not having any issues with micromanagement. So um, I might be willing to take a shot there, but I don't know. I found a really good guy to work with, and I'm actually pretty excited for where I'm going. already, sometimes you have to work at a company for a few months to see their true colors. This guy already, I'm seeing his true colors, and it's making me pretty excited. I think I'm going to be happy at this company. Obviously, we're in the early stages. Like I said, I'll be having dinner with him and his wife on Friday. I think my wife will be there too, and we'll have a pretty detailed discussion. But I'm pretty excited so far. Some obstacles have come up, and he's been really easy to deal with, and the curveballs haven't scared him. And so I think I've found a great outfit. Christensen has a 360 smart camera. So I'm going to be running the spot market. If you're talking to me, American Truckers running all 48. Also, this is the other problem I've got. Home every 3 weeks, take 5 days off. When you're an independent contractor or when you have your own truck, I don't like companies dictating when I can go home or how long I can stay. Now, having said that, I'm probably going to stay out at least that long or longer, but I want it to be my choice and not dictated to me by somebody that gets to go home every night. I was there 15 weeks. I was counseled once for a camera spotted issue. And I'll tell you something about that I learned at Swift. You can have two identical cameras in two identical trucks, and one of them will be a lot more sensitive than the other one. So, for example, at Swift, I knew two guys that both had 2022 internationals. One of them, his camera never went off, and he got out of that truck. That truck burnt to the ground. He hopped in an identical truck to it, and he got so many violations they threatened to fire him. And so I think who installs it has a lot to do with it. And some of the systems are just more sensitive than other ones. Um, Same thing at Dart when I was there. My Kenworth never went off. Hopped in that Peterbilt, and me and safety were talking 2 or 3 times a week. And that's kind of why I've got the bad feeling about cameras and stuff like that. But I am reassured that a lot of you are saying that Christensen does not use it for micromanaging or excessive coaching. We all need coaching sometimes. Shannon says, hit that like button. Yes, please do. Also, I'm noticing Shannon does not have a wrench, and she should. So, Shannon just got a wrench. Shannon, if you see anybody in here misbehaving, feel free to time them out or kick them out. It's okay if they disagree with me, but if they get real disrespectful, then we show them the door. I've had to time out a few people tonight, but I don't think I've had to kick anybody out tonight. I've tried different things with the rear facing, and it has never triggered back to safety. Yeah, from what I understand, and I don't know if this is true, I've heard some people say that there's a light on there that you can tell when they're recording you and when they're not. I don't know if that's true or not. I just, you like one guy we were talking the other day, and he worked for a different company, and his camera would come on for like 15 seconds. And we were worried about concerns. His wife had some medical problems. He didn't want his wife's medical problems broadcast over the camera, or if they were having a dispute. Uh, let's see, things like that. My activation was because I picked up my phone and turned off a missing child alert. Okay, so I wonder about that too. If you mounted your camera low and the missing child alert, usually it has like an OK button. If you tapped that low enough, like say down by the radio or something, would they still pick it up? I don't know. I've not had enough experience with them. The one at Dart was just an outward facing, but my calls with safety traumatized me enough that I don't want that. I don't mind having my own camera, but I just uh, I just don't want to deal with it. Tom says his second counseling was because I had his center visor down covering. Yeah, and sometimes you need that center visor if the sun's coming through in your eyes. So, are you not allowed to use your center visor at all? It you would think if they don't want you using it at all, they'd remove it from the truck. That might be handy. Can you access those cameras like when you're backing in a dock or things like that, or does only the company have access for that? And I'll tell you where I'm going with this question. In my Kenworth, on the little GPS touchscreen thing in the dash, it has the ability to hook 4 cameras up to it. And I just wonder if you had access to those 4 cameras, if you could look at them while you were backing up or something on that touch screen on the dash. American Trucker has a 2 lens in his. I wish Trucking with the Fly Rabbit was here right now so he could put some input too, because he also works over there. Ah, okay, it's a 360 windshield. Okay, I get it. So it can see all around you and all out the front, but it's not going to be behind the trailer or down the sides or nothing like that. All righty, we got a new comment. He is actually here. He says that his just has 1 lens, and his is a brand new. What is it? A 2024, and so it seems like we started with 4, then we went to 2, now we're down to 1. It seems like they might be reducing the number of cameras on the truck, which having that knowledge makes them more desirable than they were before. Um, we've talked about me maybe going to their headquarters and doing some interviews with them and stuff like that. And based on that new knowledge, I might be willing to do that here pretty soon. It That's good to hear. He says he's had no problems yet. They have a video on it on their channel. Barry McGowan made it. Yeah, I've watched a lot of his stuff. Like I said, I know 1 or 2 people in the office, and there's a lot of good people over there. 24. I'm not sure what that meant. Yeah, it is a 2024. Okay, there you go. So that would make sense. The newer the truck gets, the less they're putting on it. So that's very encouraging. On a Freightliner Cascadia 2022, after a long idle, do you have to do a regen always? I never idled this long, but it wants me to do one. Mine, it didn't do it that often, but I don't know. If it starts becoming too much, you might want to get it looked at. But none of these new trucks like to be idled, that's for sure. Mine was 1 camera, but a driver. I'll look it up. Interesting. Yeah, I'm glad we're discussing that. I'd been curious and I hadn't brought it on the channel yet, but I'm definitely, you have to look at a lot of different companies. I'm sure Tom experiences this too. People call, email, text all the time. What do you think about this company? What do you think about that company? And if you don't have any firsthand knowledge of that company, you hope that you know people that'll discuss it with you that are credible. There's some people that wouldn't be happy anywhere, but hopefully you've got reasonable people in your circle that tell you the truth, and then you can pass that information on and help other drivers. Yeah, I like their pay structure. Well, I say that I prefer in most environments a percentage based contract. But if you're going to be paid mileage, their program is pretty good over there. If I remember correctly, it's like I want to say it's like $1.35 loaded plus fuel surcharge, and then after 50 miles, you get paid that same rate on empty miles as well. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I don't work there. I just looked at them briefly at the truck show. I hung out with them a little bit. So I have kind of a rudimentary understanding, but I definitely don't know everything there is to know about that company. Hey Todd, I just got out of this Planet Fitness and noticed you were live. Yeah, we do it every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. If you missed part of the show, I hope that you'll go back and listen to it while you're driving later on the replay, or watch it if you're parked. Um, and and anyway, I'm glad you're here. Better late than never. CFO was on fire tonight. He put out a lot of good information, and I hope you can check it out later. I made 1,600 per week average as a lease driver. Um, that seems a little low. I usually did about 2,500 in most of the lease purchases I did. But if you're happy with it, then I'm certainly not going to throw rocks at you. But I saw a guy. I saw a guy the other day on Western Flyer, and he showed like 4 or 5 weeks in a row, and they were like 600, 800, 1,100. I think his best week was 1,700. And I agree. I think we all agree that's a little low when you've got to pay your own taxes and everything out of that. And but some of it's hard to tell because you don't know how much people are putting into their maintenance account or things like that. So Fly Rabbit said I had the numbers wrong. It's $1.25 and not $1.35. I usually have late days nowadays. That's all right. At least you're working, staying busy. That's more than I can say about me. I hadn't worked in a while. I'm anxious to go back. Midlife, because of your videos, is why I haven't gone to the lease side yet. I haven't made a point to chat with any of the lease guys to see how they're doing. Dedicated round trip, Texas to Virginia. That sounds like a pretty good run. If you make more as a company driver, stay a company driver. And if you've really just got to own a truck at some point, save your money and pay cash for one. But I'll tell you this, to me, money is secondary to work life balance. To me, being rich is spending time with family. I want to have enough money to pay my bills, but like the other night, I was over at my uncle's house and we were playing board games and we had a cookout. And going to Tahoka, I went mudding with my son the other day, and things like that. That's to me, that's being rich, and that means a lot more to me than being able to come on here and brag about how big a check I got one week. But so I guess my short answer is money's important, but it's not the most important thing to me. And I found myself tonight when Trucker CFO was talking about expedited and kind of, you know, doing it more casually and enjoying your life out on the road. I found that very appealing and something that honestly I'm surprised I haven't considered before. But I really do think I've set myself up for success now. I'm going to be working hard with this guy that I'm going to be working with, or harder than I'm used to working. But I think I'm going to be more happy, and I think it's all going to work out. He knows who I am. He knows what I do. He knows about the truck shows and things, and he's cool with it. And I'm still going to be running the spot market. His program is very very fair. The catch is you have to have your own truck, and so I've provided a solution for how people can get their own truck, and they're welcome to follow me if they want to do that, or they're welcome to go to other companies. I just wanted to provide people with options for how they could get a truck if they want to. Yeah, I agree with Tom. That's all you can do on these YouTube channels is tell the truth, and most people won't believe you anyway, but they will appreciate your honesty eventually. I can't tell you how many people have gone to companies that I've worked for in the past, and they're like, "Man, I couldn't believe what you said." And I went there and it was exactly like what you said. They're like, "I'm sorry I ever doubted you." And so I'm glad that Tom does like me and he's really honest with you guys. And I'm looking forward to checking out his videos. I really am going to do that later tonight. See what I mean? American Trucker appreciates him for appreciates Tom for not leading him down a rabbit hole. He appreciates the honesty. Maintenance is included in the lease at 43 cents a mile. Yeah, and at something like I think it's 365,000 miles, the truck is considered at the end of the lease, and you either pay the balloon payment or you get another truck, if I remember correctly. So yes, I did buy a truck. For now, I'm not saying where I'm working. Maybe I will in a couple of months. Maybe I never will. It's a really small company with just a few trucks, and honestly, it would overwhelm him if I announced it publicly and 30 or 40 or 50 people tried to go to work there. To people that I know well and have a working relationship with, that maybe I've worked with them somewhere, I may suggest one or two people to him. But for the most part, I'm not going to announce it on the channel. Now, I know some of you are going to see me at truck stops around the country. Heck, some of you are going to go to that truck show and figure out where I'm working. And so I know it's going to get out at some point. I'm not going to be the one that pushes it forward right now. Like I said, maybe in the future. If you want to email me, we can discuss your specific situation, and I'll try to help you pick a company, give you my advice, things like that. But this way, I can kind of say what I want to say and do what I want to do, and not have to worry about any backlash or repercussions. But you and I both know that it's impossible for me to avoid saying where I work for very long because people just won't let it happen. And so for now, that's all. That's all I can say. It's a very small company. I'm going to be doing almost identically to what I was doing at F2F for a short time. And the guy that runs it is great. And he's very supportive of my YouTube and me doing what I do with you guys on here. And he's been very supportive of the trials and tribulations of getting this truck and me getting started. Even today, I threw him a couple of curveballs, and he was able. I mean, he didn't even hiccup, and he let me pick my own truck number, which was something I had never done before at any company I've ever been with. So a lot of good things going on. And like I say, I'm sure at some point I'll reveal more. I guess we're talking about Christensen here. Remember, it's not a walkaway lease. Even if you give a month notice, clean truck, and walk out notice, 7,500 penalty. I'm not saying that bad. Just knowing it going in. Yeah, but it's also my understanding with their lease that after you're there 18 months, you can put 5,000 down and port the truck out. I don't know that for a fact. I haven't read their contract, but that's what I've been told. But if you're happy there, why would you want to leave? But I would make sure before I paid a $7,500 penalty that it was a place that I felt like I could last 3.5 years till the lease was completed. Been running with the Lytics camera, never get a call from the company. I did get a few emails from Lytics for parking on a ramp. Yeah, that's one of those deals that really irritates me about these camera companies and trucking companies. Let's just be honest. There's places in the country, especially out west, your Wyomings, your Montanas, where it's designed for you to park on the ramp because there's nowhere else to park. They put trash cans out there at some of them. And for your camera to say you can't park in an area that was designated for parking seems crazy. I had a guy call me the other day that he's not allowed to make U-turns in a parking lot. Well, there's some places you deliver that they tell you go down to the end, make a U-turn, come back into this dock. Now, I guess you could blindside back it, but which is safer, to do a blindside back or to go to the end of a parking lot and make a U-turn. Some of these rules are ridiculous. And then also on the ramp, I agree. It's better if you can stop at a rest area. It's better if you can stop at a truck stop. But when you get to be my age, when you're 50 years old and you need to go to the bathroom, especially if you got diabetes, when you need to go, you need to go. And you find the safest place you can find and you go. And you try to be as discreet as you can be. And for a company to say we have a zero tolerance policy, we're going to fire you. And I'm not talking about Christensen here. I don't know what their policy is on that. I just think it's unrealistic for people that are in an office that when they need to go, they walk 20 feet down a hall and there's a bathroom, to tell guys that it could be 50 or 60 miles between bathrooms when they can stop and when they can't stop to go to the bathroom. I'm back as a company driver at Cheeseman now. A big key is culture, home time, equipment, and compensation. Yeah, exactly. And I've heard a lot of good things about Cheeseman too. And I'm thinking now, since you said Cheeseman, that I might have talked to you on the phone before. I did talk to somebody several months ago that worked at Cheeseman. Was that you? No, Tom seems like a good guy. He is not at all who I thought he was. I thought he was something else. And I'm really glad he's here. He seems like a really good guy, and he's put a lot of good comments tonight. Speaking of good guys that usually have good comments, uh, Thomas Goodine is here. He's a really good guy as well. Yeah, now that would scare me too if my goal was truck ownership. $80,000 balloon payment after say three and a half years of leasing is going to be hard for most guys to come up with. Now, if they could get to a point where they could finance that balloon payment, or if you had a banker friend that would finance it at the end, it might be a good deal. But you're probably going to have to do, most people are going to have to do 2 or 3 leases before they can save up 80,000. Do you need hazmat at Cheeseman? Fly Rabbit says it's 90K now. So the camera situation's going down, the balloon payment's going up. We get hazmat and tanker. Company pays for it after you start. Well, see, that's not a bad deal either. Small carriers are where it's at. It's in my humble opinion. Yeah, Shannon, I came about that close to calling you when all the crap went down because I really wanted to get involved with a small company, and I knew you were happy over there where you were at, and I know you know the owner and stuff like that. So I almost, if I hadn't met this guy that I met, I would have definitely gave you a call and looked at coming over there and joining you where you were at. If you're doing 90K there as a company driver, stay with it. Nice trucks. I think so too. I hope so. I mean, I can already notice the difference. My call volume has gone down a lot. I'm not getting as many calls as I was getting, but which is good and bad. I like helping people, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to take a breath. This guy, so far, and I'm sure at some point we're going to have a disagreement about something. That's normal. But so far, you couldn't have asked for a better experience and somebody more easy to deal with. And like I say, maybe in 2 or 3 months we will promote him. But for now, I don't think he's ready for that, and I'm probably not ready for that either, to be honest. The only thing I missed in the truck was having a trolley brake. Yep, those are nice to have. My new Kenworth don't have it either, and I'm going to get that added at some point if it's not $1 million. 90K buyout. My issue was too many 500-mile runs and set in stone delivery times 48 hours away. Yeah, it's nice if you can get drop and hook and some flexibility. I'm going to be 100% live load and live unload running the spot market, but honestly, I like the challenge of trying to find my own loads and I love to negotiate. I mean, I'm a kid in a candy store right now. This is what I want. I'm so close to having what I've always wanted. I've got everything but the paid off truck, and I'm even working on getting my own trailer. I'm going to lease a trailer the first few months, and then I'm going to go get my own trailer too. I love driving out west, but it's hard finding something back home. Yeah, it can be, especially right now. But this is where Trucker CFO and I disagree a little bit, and nobody's right and nobody's wrong. I think things might get better a little sooner than what he does. And of course, we'll see who's right, who's wrong. It may get better for some of us and not better for some of us quicker, but I don't think there's anything wrong with what he's saying. Maybe I'm a little more optimistic. I'd rather do a lease than be a company driver if I'm calling 100% of the shots. No picking on a company driver. I like the freedom. I'd rather make less, but I know it's on me. Yeah, I like the freedom too. And here's the deal: some people are not go getters, and this isn't a criticism of anybody. And some people have to be micromanaged because they need somebody to tell them when to get out of bed and go to work, and they need somebody to tell them when to park, and they need somebody to tell them where to fuel. Some people don't need that. And but I agree, most people should never lease a truck. Most people should never be an owner operator. It takes a special person to do it. Um, People like Mark, people like Shannon. I knew the first time Shannon called me on the phone, she was going to be very successful. And I believe at her first company doing this, it didn't go as great as it could have. And I don't believe it was her fault. Don't get me wrong, but I believe ultimately she's going to be successful. Uh, the first few conversations Mark and I had was pretty contentious. I thought, man, he's just wanting something to beat me up over. But as I got to know the guy, I learned that this is a very smart, successful guy. And honestly, you could pick the worst company in the country, and both of these people, Mark and Shannon, could probably be successful there. Now, would they be happy there? Probably not, but they could be successful there. And it takes a certain kind of person, and anybody can learn it. I say that. I believe anybody can learn it. Shannon, for example, spent a ton of time, and she could talk about it. She probably has talked about it in a video. She spent a ton of time learning the industry, learning freight rates, learning all of this stuff to prepare her for now. And now she's reaping the rewards. And I'm sure Mark did the same thing. Mark is a numbers guy. If you call him and ask him numbers, Mark knows his numbers. And that's why I say both of these people, I'm pretty sure, would be successful at any company. I just don't know if they'd be happy there. Landstar can't park on ramps or in the last spot in a rest area or truck stop. So it brings up the ultimate question. What do you do? You get to a rest area and there's one spot left. Do you park there or do you keep going and violate your logbook? I think that's what's missing in electronic logs. I actually love the 30-minute break idea, but at the same time, there's times when I've stopped for that 30-minute break where it made me more tired, and I would have been better if I could have kept going. I would like to see the 30-minute break more optional. I would like to see the 11-hour and the 14-hour rule have maybe a 1 hour extension twice a week or something like that. So that if you got in a pickle finding a place to park, you could extend it once or twice a week to find parking so that you don't have to make a choice between ticking off your company or violating your logbook. She agrees with Mark. Just wondering what you think about PTSD in non combat veterans. um, so I think here's what I'm going to say. I know what that's directed at, and I'm not going to go there, but I think mental issues and things like that are serious, and that we shouldn't make fun of people, uh, and that we need to be trying to help people like that and not make fun of them. That's what I would say about that. Yes, I believe it. I believe it. It's people don't realize, and I was telling somebody this on the phone today. Having YouTube is a grind. Making a video can take a couple hours, sometimes longer. YouTuber the other day was telling me for every hour of content, it takes them 5 hours to edit it. And so it doesn't take me that long, but sometimes the upload and everything. And so then you've got the phone calls, and the phone calls are 24 hours a day because people don't know when you're awake and when you're asleep. And, trying to schedule everything. And that's why there's a lot of YouTubers that they don't answer comments. You email them, they don't respond back. And that's why I said I would never do that. Now, it may take me a day or two, but I try to get back to every single one of you because I know what it feels like to send a message and you think, man, I spent 30 minutes watching their videos and they didn't care enough to spend 2 minutes answering my email. So yeah, it's a grind. That's why anytime I watch a video, even if I disagree what they say, if I think I'm gonna like Tom's video when I watch it in a minute, but even if I disagree with every word he says, I'm still gonna give him a thumbs up, and I'm still gonna just subscribe to his channel to help him out. And I may put a comment that disagrees with him if I disagree with him, but I'm not going to be disrespectful. I'm not going to be like, you dumb idiot, why'd you say that? And if I agree with him, I'm going to say, hey, great video. And that's where we need to get. I've had people contact me with stupid ideas, and I'm still supportive. I'm like, well, I wouldn't do that, but I hope it works out for you. And that's what we need to be. We need to quit tearing each other down, and we need to find ways to help each other, especially if it doesn't cost you nothing. If I can go watch Tom's video and I know it's going to help Tom, and by giving him a thumbs up, it's free to do. I'm going to give him a thumbs up. If I know subscribing is going to help him, I'm going to subscribe. Now, the notifications, I might turn those on, I might not, but I'm going to subscribe to help him out. I'm going to give him a thumbs up to help him out. And we all need to be that way. Um, you'd be surprised how many people will go out of their way because they're so worried I'm going to get a referral bonus or I might earn a commission. So it happened at Swift all the time. I'd say contact Michelle. What would they do? They'd Google Swift and they would contact some recruiter. Half the time they'd get a company recruiter that would take an application on them, but then they'd have to redo an application a week later when they figured out filled out the wrong one. Or they'd get some other recruiter and then they'd call me, hey, Todd, I can't get this recruiter to call me back. And I'd say, why didn't you go through Michelle? Well, I just didn't. And they'd want me to help them then. And of course, I'd try to help them, but they could have saved themselves a lot of heartache, a lot of trouble if they'd have just contacted who I told them to contact. And we're going to experience that here. I'm telling everybody, if you need a truck and you want a good experience, call Avery. I've got his number on my website. I've got his number in the description for this video. And he'll help you. You'll have a good experience. But some Yahoo, and I already know a couple of them, are going to Google the truck dealership and they're going to call and they're going to get some random salesperson and they're going to have a bad experience. And then they're going to call me and want me to fix it. When if they would have just listened to me, I could have saved them a lot of stress and a lot of heartache. But anyway, that ran over. Let's move on to the comments. Soggy pizza. I don't like soggy pizza, but I do like cold pizza. Hello, everyone. Sorry I got sidetracked. That's all right. We're glad you're here now. I spend a lot of time helping people who want to become a driver and go to school. I try to, but that's actually one of my weak areas. I don't know a lot about truck driving schools because it's been 26 or 27 years since I've been to one. The one I went to ain't even around no more. But I do still try to help. I try to get them with somebody that can help them. But you're probably a lot more knowledgeable about that area than me for sure. Yeah, that helps. 90% drop and hook. Good friend Wesley Baxley is here. At Cheeseman, I do a mix of LTL, OTR, and just regular OTR. LTL's not bad. It can be really good if you live near one of their terminals. Things aren't getting better this year. It's a rough year. Maybe. Like I said last week, spot market rates started to climb a little bit. The rejection rate went up a little bit. It was the first time it was over 3% in a while. It's definitely not time for everybody to go out and buy a brand new loaded out $250,000 Peterbilt. But it might be time to start truck shopping and maybe dipping your toes in the water again. That's what I'm doing. And you guys know I'm going to come on here and tell you the truth. If I fall on my face, each and every one of you is going to see it. And if I come out here and do really well, you're going to see that too, because I'm going to share the facts with you. Right now, I've had some setbacks this week that honestly are really hurting, but I'm going to hang in there, and I'm going to come out the other side. You can count on that. At Cheeseman's, the dispatchers ask, "What do you want to do, Tom?" Oh, that's nice when they do that. It, like I said, I've heard a lot of good things about Cheeseman and Christensen. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you're doing well over there. The hours of service are maximums and not supposed to be the norm. Exactly. Exactly. Let me see. I'm trying to figure this one out. Yeah, I shouldn't have answered it either. I probably said more than what I should have, but I just I think sometimes we get mean on the internet. Thank you for the kind words, Todd. I will always say one thing about that you have integrity. I appreciate you, Mark. But Mark, I'll tell you another thing about Mark. We had some, I think he'll agree with this. We had some spirited debates, um, but we were both still respectful of each other. We weren't name calling you idiot, you dummy. It was spirited, but we were both putting up good points, and we were both respectful to each other. And we come out the other side friends. Now we don't talk on the phone every day, but we have a healthy working relationship. We don't agree on 100% of everything, but we found out we agree on more than what we disagree on. And I think we've both learned from each other. Even if we don't see eye to eye on everything, we appreciate each other's perspective. I like being company driver. I never get a negative check. No, but in theory, you could. If you took a week off and you had health insurance or an advance or something like that, theoretically, you could get a negative check. But yeah, there's some, if you've got, I tell people all the time, if you've got small kids at home, maybe a wife that don't work, then stay company driver, because being in a lease, being an owner operator, there's always a chance that you're not going to get a check that week. And now there's things you can do to minimize that chance, but it's always a chance, and it's in the back of your mind. A breakdown, a job change, all the things I've gone through the last 2 months. I think in April, my P&L said I lost like almost $11,000. I've spent uh, well over $30,000 in the last 2 months, and it's still going strong. So yeah, you've got to be prepared for that. And sometimes it's been really scary. Uh, Sometimes I've had less than $20 in the bank. It's been tough, but when I come out the other side, I'm going to be really confident and really grateful. And you guys know that YouTube has been really, really helpful to me. Some of you guys have made donations that came at just the right time and things like that. So I'm grateful to each and every one of you. But yeah, I get that. If I had two small kids at home or something like that, I would probably just stay a company driver. I've had inward facing cameras before. It seems it's only to micromanage for the company, can see if you're smoking or on your phone, etc. Yeah, the one thing that nobody at any safety department has ever been able to tell me is, with the exception of one thing, what is one way an inward facing camera benefits the driver? The only thing you can tell me is if you had a police officer pull you over and he came up to your truck and he said something inappropriate or racially inspired, then that could benefit you having that audio. Maybe if he punched you for no reason, something like that, it might be good to have an inward facing camera. But in an accident situation, there's not one way you can tell me that an inward facing camera benefits the driver. And I'll leave the floor open. If somebody's got something, tell me how an inward facing camera benefits the driver ever. LOL Pro Driver. I've had a lot of those at Dart. Yeah, me too. The part of YouTube that I'm not good at is the parts where I'm on camera. The edited part is easier for me. This will surprise you. For me, in person, this is what I'm nervous about on Friday night when I meet with the owner and his wife face to face. In person, I'm extremely shy, especially in the beginning. And a lot of people, when they meet me in person, they're expecting to get Trucker Todd like they get in the videos. And usually I'm really shy in the beginning. It takes me a little bit to kind of relax and loosen up and enjoy my surroundings. So I get that. I don't have any problem when the camera's rolling, but if you walk up to me in a truck stop and say hi, it may take me a minute to be like I am on the videos. I'm generally a really quiet, kind of family oriented guy. I like going to church. I don't get to go very often, but I like going. I like hanging out with my kids. I like hanging out with my uncle and his family, things like that. But yeah, I'm a little bit of everything, I guess. It's okay to watch people succeed. We can all lift everyone up. We can all rise together. That's been my philosophy. You'd be surprised how many people that ticks off. It how dare you try to help somebody or offer advice or you know I stopped the other day. We were looking for a cell phone store because I was trying to switch phones. One of my phones had crapped out again. And a lady was sitting there with her hood up, couldn't get her car started. And I told my wife, I said, I'm going to go over there and help her. And I went over there. We tried to boost her car off and couldn't get her car to start. I think it had some starter issues. And so I said, hey, do you need to use my cell phone to call somebody to come get you? Something like that. She said, no, I'll just text my husband and he'll come over here later. And so I said, okay. But how many of us would have hopped in our car and drove off and not offered to help, see if she needed something? She may have just needed, a little bit of antifreeze, a gallon of water, a ride to a gas station, something like that. And she was probably 50, 60 years old. So she wasn't out there trying to roll me or something. But we need to all get to where we want to help others and we're not so wrapped up in ourselves and just helping ourselves. I don't hide my referral bonuses. It's not just about referrals. I send more people to Millis and I get nothing for that. Great starter company. Yeah, and I'm hoping that proves that to a lot of people here. I'm not recruiting for this place I'm going to work for, and I know it's going to get out, but I'm not going to put it out there right now. I'm going to try to help people. Yeah, and I do every day. People that call me saying, hey, what do you think about this company? What do you think about that company? Um, if I know somebody there, I'll say, yeah, I'll call over there and put in a good word for you. If I don't know anybody there, I'll say, well, I'll look at their Safer score. I'll read some reviews. I'll tell you what I think. And then I tell them yay or nay, whether it benefits me financially or not. Now, what I've found is when I do that, then I end up being at a truck stop and they're coming up to me and they know I didn't get a referral bonus. They're saying, "Hey, let me buy you dinner," or something like that. So you reap what you sow. And if your goal is to come out here and screw people over, then people are going to try to screw you over. But if you come out here with genuinely trying to help people, heck, I had one guy, he may be in here now. I went and hung out with him for the day, and his in-laws was moving in his house. I went over there and helped him move in. I didn't make a penny off of that. He had already gone to Swift. I didn't make a referral bonus off of that. I made no monetary gain off of him whatsoever. But I still went over there and helped him move stuff for a couple hours. And we need to all be more like that. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. That's why I don't come on here and brag about it. That was several months ago. But I'm telling you about it now as an example, not to say, "Oh, look how good I am." Call him earlier today. He was great help, and I'm definitely going to build this with them. Thank you very much, Todd. Oh, good deal. Good deal. I'm glad you called Trucker CFO. I really am. That's awesome. And I hope that you told him that you learned about him through Trucker Todd. The reason is it makes him inspired to come on here and do shows and and invite me to that trucker show in Fort Wayne and things like that. That's the most that it helps me. Um, it if he doesn't get any calls, he's like, shoot, I wasted him, or I would think if I was him, I wasted 2 hours of my time and I only got one call. I only got two calls. But if he gets 20 or 30 calls a week, he sees the benefit and it gets him excited to come on, and he's going to have more topics and things to talk about. So it helps the channel significantly when you guys tell him that you contacted him because you saw him on Tuesday Trucker Talk with Trucker Todd or something like that. And I really hope that some of you can come to Fort Wayne and hang out with both of us. Like I said, I'm not going to be the only YouTuber there, to give you a chance to meet me and some of the other ones. You never know. You and me may do a video together if you're there. Does Cheeseman still run gray internationals for their fleet? I don't think so, but Midlife can answer that. Spot market and rejection went up because of the holiday week. Yeah, I agree with that, but hopefully it's a trend that'll continue. I think at this point we're all just looking for a reason to be optimistic. Mark agrees. Yes, soggy, but now we have internationals, Freightliners, Peterbilts, and Kenworths. You can have it in any color you want as long as that color is gray. We really have very few open trucks. I work at Dart. Am I 100% happy? No, but I'm making decent living as a lease driver. Well, there you go. We've said this about before, and I think it's important to remember. Pick the worst trucking company you can think of in the entire country. And for me, it's not Dart. I like Dart. You guys know I like Dart. I still kind of feel like I work there sometimes. I still talk to a lot of drivers at Dart. But pick the worst company you can think of: Western Express, CR England. Some of you would say Swift. Some of you would say WFX. Wherever it is, they still have drivers at that company that are happy. Maybe they live in just the right area. Maybe they're on a dedicated run, something like that. So if you're somewhere and you're happy, don't let anybody influence you that you need to leave where you're at. Stay there as long as you're happy. By the same token, though, if you see a chance to better your life, to make a vertical move that improves maybe your home time or your financial status or whatever's important to you, then don't be afraid to make a move either. But certainly, if I mean, there was years that I was happy at Dart. Um, so I get it. I really do. I know a company that pays W-2 $1,600 a weekly salary plus 200 safety bonus plus 200 performance bonus for over 2,500 miles, 4 weeks out, 6 days off, and they still pay the salary off that week. Man, that sounds a lot like GP Transco. Is that who you're talking about? But if it's not, that's a great outfit. I know a guy that worked for GP Transco, and he lived like in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, and he would stay out like 3 months at a time, and then he'd go home for like 10 or 12 days, I think. And it was just a deal he had worked out with them. He was happy with that arrangement, and they were too, because of how hard it was to get him home where he lived. All righty, keeping it moving here. This is not a zero sum game. I don't do worse because I help you do better. Exactly. And there's a lot of drivers that have that mentality. They don't want to tell you where a good company is because they're afraid it takes away freight from them, or they view you as competition. I just don't view it that way. I think I view it a lot more like you do, Tom. Did you do a 0% transfer balance on your truck deal? I'm not sure what your um, I'm not following you. You're going to have to phrase it a different way. Maybe I should follow um, basically the deal I'm in, and they have several different ways you can go. It's basically a lease with a balloon payment of $1 at the end, and it's 5,000 down plus the taxes. Mine was like 57.28 all in, and they're not very strict on credit, which is really important if you're a first time buyer. What my goal was to find a program that A, I could get into, and B, that um, the vast majority of you guys could get into. There's so many people that are stuck in a lease purchase that aren't happy, and I wanted to provide a viable option for guys that wanted to be able to get a truck but didn't want to get stuck in another lease purchase. I called Henry earlier today and definitely going to be buying a truck from them. Thank you very much. I'm not familiar with Henry, uh, but I hope he gets you set up good. Did you mention me to him? I'm just checking because I guarantee you what's going to happen is something's going to go sideways, and it's going to be hard for me to help, but I'll still try to help you. It, but anyway, I do wish you the best, and I'll still try to help you if you have any problems. Nope, not GP. I left GP to come over where I'm at now. All right. So you still at Christensen then? I guess so because of your profile picture. You left GP to go to Christensen. Ah, okay. Fun fact, and I probably shouldn't be saying this on air, but the lead singer for the intro music I use on my recorded videos, this is why I do this, is the head of your recruiting department at Christensen. And I'm a big fan of his music. He has a lot of great songs. I started listening to him whenever I found that song, and he's got about 6 or 7 songs that I really like and have in my Spotify now. All right, the comments are kind of slowing down, but we still got a good crowd, and so if if you guys got any more questions, throw them up, and I'll try to help you. Good deal, Chris. I didn't mean to jump on you, and I'll still try to help you. I don't know Henry personally, so I don't know what kind of experience you're going to have, but I do know Avery personally, and I know what kind of experience I had. Yeah, the brothers Robertson, they're a great. He's a great guy. I hung out with him at Matt's some, and yeah, I've had a few conversations with him on the phone, and like I say, I hate to. I hate to mention them on here because I don't know if he wants me doing that or not. But you guys get on Spotify, listen to some of their music. Some of their music's on YouTube. I don't believe it has a T in their last name though. I think it's Robertson, but I'm not 100% sure about that. It's also in the description of my video. But yeah, they're great guys. They put out good music, and I'm really grateful for them. When I started my YouTube channel, I had about 300 subscribers at the time. He agreed to let me use his music, and my channel has really grown since that time. And I think part of it is in part to that catchy song. So I'm grateful to them, and they really are good people. Oh, good deal. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say they like Avery, or that they like GP. Okay, good. I feel better automatically because, like I said, there's some stuff I can't say right now, some experiences I've already had with them. But hopefully by Thursday night, I'm going to be able to share you at least one example of why everybody needs to deal with Avery when you're getting a truck. And that dealership as well. I'm going through something with them right now, and their attitude and behavior has been awesome. And I want to tell you guys about it, but I want to wait till the story comes to a conclusion so that I can tell you the beginning, middle, and end. But very happy with that dealership and very happy with Avery or with Avery. Good Lord. And so I'm not a promoter of Avery. I've heard bad things about them, but the salesperson Avery is a great guy, very honest, very upfront. And I know that's weird when you're talking about salespeople, but anyway, exactly. Rhett Robertson is the lead singer. He sings with his brother, and they're it's they're good people. That's all you can say about them. Yeah, I agree with you, Wesley. I've got some family members that have dealt with mental issues, and I find it offensive as well too. It I I hope that was a genuine, sincere question, but I got a feeling it was directed at somebody else. And we need to quit making fun of people. Uh, Everybody has something weird about them. Everybody has something different about them, and we need to quit trying to figure out ways we can put each other down and start trying to figure out ways we can help each other. What's everyone doing for health insurance these days? That's a good segue. Thanks, Mark. For me, I use healthcare.gov, and that's how I get my insurance at very affordable rates. Me and my wife are covered for a little over 300 a month, and we've got a really good policy. Now, when this healthcare.gov was being proposed uh, as it was, I was against it. But now that it's out, you got to take advantage of all the loopholes and things that you can get. So that's a good question. It's not necessarily that I chose PACCAR over Cummins. In most cases, I would prefer a Cummins. The deal about a PACCAR that I've always heard, and I had one in my Kenworth at Dart, really good truck, but a PACCAR does not like to idle. And I know I said earlier in the video that no truck likes to idle. A PACCAR really doesn't like to idle. So I took the PACCAR in this case because they are fuel efficient, and I had an APU which avoids the idling. And so that's I hope that answers your question on that. Averett has a lot of parking options. That came up a lot. So on healthcare.gov, does it go by income? Yes, but you got to remember, and I'm not giving tax advice here, but your income is within reason what you say it is. Technically, you don't make any money. Your truck makes money. and you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary of what your net income will be. And if you miss it, you have to pay the difference at the end of the year. So if you put your income at say 60, 70,000 a year, which is reasonable for a company driver, um, and then you can settle up the difference at the end of the year. But again, I'm not a tax professional. I wish we'd asked that question when we had uh, Colton on earlier. I'm just telling you how I did it. I think this year I put mine at 70, and I think I'll be pretty close at the end of the year, especially after these last 2 months. I may have overshot it a little bit. So I've got a full-fledged APU. It it is a Thermo King tri-pack evolution, and I'm really happy with it. Thank you very much, EDG times three, for the super sticker $1.99 donation. I really, really, really appreciate it, especially right now. Um, thank you for doing that. All right, what else? What else do you guys want to talk about tonight? We're coming up on the 3 hour mark, so if we don't have any more questions, we'll probably wrap it up. Also, midlife on that truck. I did a video about it where I show it real good. I believe I put it out yesterday. So if you want to go back and check out that video, I show it pretty good and talk about where I got it from and all of that. And also, if you guys want to contact Avery and see what trucks he has available or what you qualify for in this blue ticker box that's going along the bottom of the screen, it'll have his phone number as well as Trucker CFO's number. Now, both of them are gone for the night, but give them a call first thing in the morning, and they'll both be glad to help you out. They're both great guys, and it's a pleasure to work with both of them for sure. Also, when you email me guests you'd like to see on. Right now, I'm a little overwhelmed on the Tuesday show because I've literally got a bag of probably 75 to 100 people that have said they want to come on the show and talk about their company or their product or something like that. Tell me who y'all would like to see on here, and I'll try to get them on, and we'll discuss what they have to offer. On the ES Advantage card, do they upgrade you at Love's? Never heard you mention that. Okay, they do, but I'm not supposed to talk about it. You get 3 times the points, and you get 2 showers a day and unlimited drink refills. They prefer that I don't talk about that. That they tell you about that when you sign up to have them call you about the card. Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate it. Midlife Trucker with the super sticker. I really appreciate it from you because I was rude to you earlier and I didn't mean to be. You corrected me and I appreciate that. I really appreciate it though. Yeah, it does. It's got after treatment warranty and everything for 2 years, 250,000 miles. It's a pretty extensive warranty. Now, you guys know how I feel about warranties. They are only as good as the paper they're written on, and you never really know if you have a good warranty or not till the first time you try to use it. I believe it's a $350 deductible per occurrence, not event. So if you go in with a laundry list, it's only 350, and they've got a shop labor rate max of 150. So like if you went to a shop that was 160, you'd have to pay that $10, but they do try to negotiate the rate down to 150 or less. And I know that at a lot of your truck stops, like your Loves and TAs, they can usually do that. So But we won't know. It does not cover my APU though. That was an additional coverage, and I didn't pay for that. Probably should have, but I didn't. And I can go back and add additional warranty coverage uh, at my own expense if I want to at any time. So if I thought I needed APU coverage at some point, I could surely add that. All right, let's see here. What else have we got here? I was hoping that other guy was still here. He was wanting to talk about an accident he had at Swift. I think he decided to email me instead, but I was hoping he'd hang around. I really wanted to get into that with him. I hate to do it when I got Trucker CFO on because we really are lucky to have him on here. I mean, he's on Sirius XM. He's got listeners over 1 million probably, and he's on several podcasts. And in comparison to what he's usually on, my channel's small, and so I try to maximize my time with him and use him to the best benefit that we can because it's really great that he comes on like he does. Let's see here. What else we got? Anybody else got something? Is my truck wide open? It's currently set at 75, which I was okay with. However, it is going to be visiting the diesel doctor in the near future. Not for that, but for other options. For example, it's got the crap on it that uh, if you turn your wipers on at all while the cruise is on, it will turn the cruise off. And I know what everybody's going to say, well, you're not supposed to run your cruise when it's raining. True. However, if somebody splashes a puddle in the water in the road on you, or if you're using your washer fluid and it didn't get all of it off, so you turn the wiper on to do a little more, it'll kill your cruise control. I hate that. I'll get that turned off. It also has, after 5 minutes of idling, it'll turn the truck off. I'll get that turned off. And while I'm in there, I might as well have them open it wide open. But I'm not a speeder anymore. I'm all about fuel economy. Now, this truck, the way it's geared, I probably am going to go a little faster because at at 65, for example, it's at about 1,000 RPMs and it's legging in and out of 11th and 12th gear. And it would probably be more efficient to either lock it in 11th or speed up to 70 or something like that. I'm just going to have to play with it once I get a load on it and see where it seems like it's the most efficient. Coming back from Iowa in it, it's real hard to judge it when you're bobtail. And so that's some things I'll be figuring out. But yeah, at some point, it's not a priority, but at some point when I'm in Effingham, I'm going to stop and see the diesel doctor and get everything fixed the way I like it. All right. Anything else? We're at 2:58. We'll go about another minute unless you guys got something else. I want to say thank you again to the super stickers that you guys have sent. I really appreciate those. And oops, I did something wrong. All right. Anything else before we call it a night? All right, folks. I'm going to go ahead and take off now. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Thursday night. I'm going to have a lot to tell you on Thursday night about this truck. I hope you'll join me then. We'll see y'all later. Have a great one. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.